Chapter 1344. 1344 Chapter 1344 Turning the Tide. Back then, Lu Ming had obtained 5 phoenix feathers when he first followed the ancient city of desolation to an island in the heaven realm. After that, when Ming Lian's clone entered the secret realm of the Saint Mansion and received the inheritance of the mysterious Sky Saint, Lu Ming gave him some things related to the Tao of Inscription, including most of the forging materials. Over the years, Ming Lian had refined the 5 phoenix feathers into 5 flying swords with the improvement of his cultivation. Lu Ming called them the Phoenix Feather Flying Swords. The Phoenix Feather Flying Sword was incomparably sharp and indestructible. Its power was astonishing. Just now, he had used 2 swords to force the red-robed old man to defend himself. Ah! On the other side, a scream was heard. The first Emperor of the Dead was no match for Lu Ming. Under the suppression of the prison-suppressing steel's bloodline, the first Emperor of the Dead's body cracked and blood spurted out. Boom. The prison-suppressing steel pressed down for the second time. The first Emperor of the Dead's body was torn into pieces, and his spiritual spirit was also blown apart. His body and spirit were destroyed. The strongest Emperor of the southern underworld became the first Emperor to be killed after the battle began. The one who killed him was Lu Ming. In the sacred city, countless martial artists who saw this scene could not help but gasp. The number 1 Emperor of the underworld of the southern underworld. In the past, he was definitely an unrivaled figure who could move unhindered in the world. With a stomp of his foot, not just the southern underworld, but the entire divine wilderness continent would be shaken by him. In the past, such a figure was like a legend, weighing down on the hearts of countless warriors. He was a figure that made everyone tremble with fear when mentioned. However, such a peerless figure had died just like that. He had been killed by an even stronger expert. Buzz. After killing the first Emperor of the Dead, the bloodline of the prison-suppressing steel trembled and suppressed the red-robed elder. Detestable. The red-robed old man roared in his heart. His sword chi madly slashed towards the second body. However, his second body cultivated the Tao of Inscriptions and had many methods. All kinds of formations appeared continuously, some to trap the enemy, some to disturb the enemy, some to defend, some to attack, and all sorts of attacks. At the same time, the second body's killing formation and the 2 phoenix feather flying swords were shockingly powerful. The red-robed elder did not dare to be careless. For a moment, although he forced the second body to retreat, he could not do anything to the second body. Boom. The bloodline of the prison-suppressing steel had arrived and was pressing down on the red-robed old man. Above it, the chaos will crushed over and the void was collapsing, making it difficult for the red-robed old man to breathe. Clang. The red-robed old man held the sword with both hands and slashed at the prison-suppressing steel bloodline. The prison-suppressing steel's bloodline trembled, and it was sent flying. However, the terrifying power of the prison-suppressing steel also made the red-robed old man's expression change. It was as if he had been hit by hundreds of mountains, and his body was forced to take a few steps back. On the other side, the second body had also arrived. Whoosh, whoosh. The 2 phoenix feather flying swords were extremely sharp and as fast as lightning. They were almost invisible to the naked eye as they stabbed at the red-robed elder. The red-robed elder used 120% of his energy to block them. The space fluctuated and the second body walked in the air, approaching the red-robed elder step by step. With every step, a large array appeared in the void. He's too difficult to deal with. The red-robed old man's heart was trembling. His eyes were filled with anger and he felt extremely aggrieved. Lu Ming was too difficult to deal with. In terms of combat strength, he had an emperor's spiritual weapon and was definitely stronger than Lu Ming. Lu Ming's main body and secondary body were no match for him. He would be suppressed or even killed. However, when the 2 of them were used together, their power would increase by several times and they would have endless means. Even if he had combat strength, he would not be able to use it. If he was not careful, he would be in danger. He roared and burst with genuine vitality. He madly slashed out with the combat sword in his hand. Golden sword light kept slashing out in all directions, forming a terrible storm of sword chi. Boom. Boom. One after another, the formations were broken and destroyed. Lu Ming's main body and secondary body sneered coldly. They did not attack. Instead, their secondary body inscribed arrays and bombarded the red-robed elder. Controlling an emperor weapon was an extremely taxing task, and his true essence would not last long under the red-robed elder's ferocious attacks. Sure enough, a moment later, The red-robed old man began to pant heavily as his true essence was severely consumed. No, we can't go on like this. I'll meet up with Di first. We'll work together and cooperate. The situation will be much better. The red-robed elder thought to himself. He realized that he would be too passive if he were to fight Lu Ming alone. He would not be able to unleash his full power. If he were to cooperate with the others, he would be able to kill Lu Ming with lightning speed. Thinking of this, he was about to rush toward Martial Emperor Di. At this moment, Lu Ming's main body and secondary body had cold glints in their eyes. Boom. The prison-suppressing steel that Lu Ming's main body had transformed into glowed brightly. It was as large as a mountain and was surrounded by a chaotic artistic conception. A powerful force surged into his third bloodline. The prison-suppressing steel unleashed the prison-suppressing heavenly art and launched a powerful attack at the red-robed elder. At the same time, he shouted and two phoenix feather flying swords flew toward the red-robed elder. As for the second body, the patterns on its body formed a terrifying killing formation. The second body was the core of the killing formation. An endless sword chi surged and gathered into one. The second body turned into a beam of sword chi and attacked the second body. Lu Ming launched his most powerful attack at the red-robed elder. Emperor Sword, destroy the firmament. The red-robed elder madly circulated his true essence and slashed out 2 times. 2 sword chi as large as mountains slashed at the main body and the second body. Clang. The prison-guarding steel collided with a sword chi. The sword chi dissipated and the prison-guarding steel flew out. On the other side it was a battle of sword chi. Sword chi whistled and shot out in all directions. The 2 phoenix feather flying swords in the second body were also blocked. However, at this moment, 3 more sword lights shot out from the second body's glabella. There were 3 more phoenix feather flying swords. The 3 phoenix feather flying swords were beyond the red-robed elder's expectations. The 2 sword strikes just now were at the moment when he was exhausted and needed time to catch his breath. However, Lu Ming had long calculated the timing and grasped it perfectly. At this moment he launched a fatal blow. The red-robed elder's pupils rapidly contracted as he roared in his heart, "No!" The 3 phoenix feather flying swords pierced through the red-robed elder's body. One was from his glabella, one was from his heart, and the other was from his dantian. All 3 places were vital points. The red-robed elder's eyes widened in disbelief. He could not believe that he would die in this battle, killed by Lu Ming. Then the red-robed old man's corpse fell to the ground. A peak emperor at the 2nd level of the martial royal realm with an emperor's spiritual weapon had been killed. The sacred city was in an uproar. This was a battle that could turn the tide of the battle. The Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace had lost a peak expert in battle. Who could stop Lu Ming next? High up in the sky, the battle between the sovereigns was getting more and more intense. There were also casualties among the emperors. Some of the sovereigns were injured, and there were even sovereigns who died on the spot, their blood spraying through the sky. The battle was extremely tragic. The usually high and mighty emperor was going to be bathed in blood and killed today. Chapter 1345. 1345 Lu Ming Battle God 1. However, even though the emperors were fighting, they were also paying attention to the battlefield. At this moment, when they saw that Lu Ming had killed the red-robed elder, the emperor of the northern plains and the heaven-suppressing divine army, their morale was greatly boosted and they attacked like a rainbow. On the other hand, the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace was the complete opposite of the Xie clan. Everyone was shocked. How is that possible? Someone shouted. A peak 2nd level martial royal realm expert with an emperor's spiritual weapon had been killed by Lu Ming. How could Lu Ming be so powerful? Would this battle be turned around because of Lu Ming? Boom. On the battlefield closest to Lu Ming, Tu Qian, Xia Jiuyang and Martial Emperor Di exchanged a blow and both parties retreated. Buzz. Buzz. Lu Ming's main body and secondary body broke through the void and appeared beside Martial Emperor Di, forming a pincer attack. Join forces to besiege me. That's good. We'll kill them all. At this moment, Martial Emperor Di was still very powerful, and his eyes were like swords. Di, I don't need to gang up on you to kill you. Today, I'm going to settle the score with you. Lu Ming said, locking his aura on Martial Emperor Di. Senior Jiang, Tu Qian, you go help the others. Leave Di to me. Lu Ming's voice was heard. Yes. Tu Qian listened to Lu Ming's instructions. He would do whatever Lu Ming said. He nodded and flew away to join the other battle groups. With a swing of the axe, an emperor was immediately cut in half. Not good. Let's join forces and form a battle formation. An emperor roared. Tu Qian's participation had undoubtedly broken the balance. Some emperors roared, and some of them gathered together to form a battlefield and defend with all their might. This way he could barely deal with Tu Qian. Lu Ming, said Xia Zhuyang. He was a little worried for Lu Ming. Senior Zhuyang, it doesn't matter. DE and I must make a decision today, Lu Ming said. Then be careful. Xia Zhuyang warned before he also charged towards the other emperors. Lu Ming's team started to gain the upper hand. In the beginning they had fewer emperors on their side and were at a slight disadvantage. However, the situation had now reversed. After Xia Zhuyang left, only Martial Emperor DE and Lu Ming were left. Boom. The two sides stood opposite each other, their killing intent rumbling. After many years, Lu Ming finally stood in front of DE and fought him. Along the way, Lu Ming had experienced endless dangers and hardships. He had finally reached this point and reached his current combat strength, which was enough to fight with DE. Because of the blood essence of the 9 dragons, the two of them had become enemies, and there was bound to be a battle. Buzz. Heat waves spread out from Lu Ming's spine, and a blood-red light permeated the air. It was the abnormal movement of the 9-dragon bloodline. At the same time, a blood-red light spread out from Martial Emperor DE's body, and a faint dragon roar could be heard. 9-dragon blood essence. Lu Ming's heart stirred. Through the 9-dragon bloodline, he could sense the 9-dragon blood essence in Martial Emperor DE's body. Unlike Lu Ming, DE's blood essence of 9 dragons was not awakened. Instead, it was integrated into the body. When DE got the blood essence of 9 dragons, he was already in the Martial Emperor realm. He couldn't use it to awaken his bloodline. He could only use it to refine. Kill? DE did not want to delay any longer. He rose up and rushed toward Lu Ming. Bang, bang, bang. The second body stepped into the void, and large formations appeared one after another. All kinds of trapping and attacking formations emitted all kinds of light and blasted toward Martial Emperor DE. At the same time, the sword chi whistled and 5 phoenix feather flying swords stabbed toward DE. The bloodline of the prison suppressing steel, carrying the chaos concept, also attacked DE. DE's combat strength was very strong, even slightly stronger than the red-robed elder. However, he was also caught up in the situation of the red-robed elder. He was embarrassed by the joint attack of Lu Ming's main body and second body. He could not exert his strength at all. After fighting for a while, Lu Ming began to gain the upper hand. Lu Ming, I'll show you my strongest combat power today. Martial Emperor DE let out a furious roar. His body began to glow. All kinds of light emitted from DE's body. These rays of light condensed into all sorts of strange phenomena. There were true dragons dancing in the air, phoenixes screeching, even qilins stepping in the air, divine birds flying in the sky, and iron swords flying in all directions. All kinds of strange phenomena appeared on DE's body. Lu Ming even saw 9 dragons among them. 10,000 meridian spirit body. DE let out a long roar, and his body exuded a terrible fluctuation. Buzz, buzz. DE's combat power was greatly enhanced. His golden sword swept across the sky, and sword chi cut through everything. The formation set up by the Minglian clone was instantly destroyed by the sword chi. Clang. The combat sword hit the prison-suppressing steel bloodline. The bloodline shook violently and flew far away. Fortunately, he had the fragment of the prison-guarding steel's original body, which greatly increased his defense. Otherwise, Lu Ming would not dare to fight it head-on. His blood meridian would have been scattered. Ding, 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 ding. The 5 phoenix feather flying swords were sent flying, and the second body was the same, retreating continuously. What powerful strength! Lu Ming's eyes narrowed. DE's combat power suddenly increased greatly, all because of the strange phenomenon of his body. Lu Ming guessed that DE must have cultivated a powerful spirit body. The spirit body that he cultivated with the blood essence of 10,000 spirits was far more powerful than ordinary spirit bodies when it exploded. Spirits of all living things, kill! DE shouted. The various creatures in his body suddenly roared and turned into a rainbow light, rushing toward Lu Ming. Roar! Lu Ming saw the shadows of a 9 dragon, a true dragon and a qilin among them. They exuded a shocking aura as they charged toward Lu Ming. The prison-suppressing steel trembled as it unleashed the prison-suppressing heavenly art. It was infused with the chaos intent and was constantly bombarded. Bang, bang, bang. The rumbling sounds continued. De, holding his sword, attacked Ming Lian's clone. "I'll kill you first," De said coldly. In his eyes, the secondary body was even more difficult to deal with. It had many tricks up its sleeve. As long as he killed the secondary body first, Lu Ming's main body would not be a threat. "De, you think you can kill me? Today I'll show you something." Ming Lian's face was calm and he smiled. Buzz. Ming Lian waved his hand and a scroll flew out. It then grew rapidly and enveloped Martial Emperor De. All Formation Illustration. Lian Cang's All Formation Illustration. Martial Emperor De shouted angrily. "Then I'll let you have a taste of the power of the All Formation Illustration again." As he refined his second body, the golden mental energy fire between his eyebrows jumped. On the All Formation picture, endless light shone. It was a large formation, a dense large formation. The arrays lit up and countless terrible attacks flew out to attack De. Whoosh, whoosh. De held the battle sword in his hand. The sword chi whistled and madly slashed out, destroying the attacks one after another. However, the million array diagram had endless arrays and endless attacks. It seemed to be endless and kept attacking De. Without a doubt, the All Formation Illustration was also an Emperor's spiritual weapon. Back then, Lian Cang's cultivation was only at level 1 Martial Royal Realm, while De was at level 2 Martial Royal Realm. If it were not for the magic of the Million Formation Illustration, how could Lian Cang have the chance to leave a trace of imprint and rush into the deep underground when De sneaked an attack on him? Chapter 1346. 1346 The Nine Heavens Bronze Man. Back then, Lian Cang was an alchemist and controlled the Emperor's spiritual weapon, the All Formation Illustration. He had many mysterious and unpredictable techniques. That was why De had launched a sneak attack. Even so, Lian Cang had left a trace of his imprint and escaped into the ground. The All Formation Illustration was severely damaged. Over the years, Ming Lian's clone had been cultivating hard in the secret realm of the Saint Mansion. At the same time, with the improvement of his cultivation, he had also repaired the All Formation diagram. Now the All Formation diagram had been repaired by 80 to 90%. Under the control of the clone, its power was amazing. Ming Lian's second body already had the combat strength of a peak level 2 Martial Royal Realm expert. With the 5 Phoenix Feather Flying Swords, it was even more powerful. Now that he had taken out the All Formation picture, his combat strength was almost the same as De's. De could only focus all his attention on dealing with Ming Lian's clone. Buzz. At this time, the bloodline of the prison-suppressing steel shook and suppressed De. Damn it. De roared in his heart. He split a part of his mind to resist Lu Ming's main body. Boom. The prison-suppressing steel weighed hundreds of millions of pounds, which made De's body shake. At the same time, Ming Lian's second body seized the opportunity to launch a storm of attacks. Get sleepy. There were at least 100 trapping formations in the formation picture. They all tried to trap De. De shouted angrily and tried his best to fight. Unfortunately, he was at a disadvantage in the end. After the Ming Lian clone took out the All Formations diagram, the combat power of the main body and the clone had surpassed De. De tried his best to resist, but after dozens of moves he was completely suppressed and had almost no power to fight back. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 5 Phoenix Feather Flying Swords pierced through the void. They were so fast that even ordinary emperors could not see them clearly. They were aimed at De's 5 vital points. De wielded his sword to block it. Although he managed to block it, the prison-guarding steel pressed down again. De shouted angrily and could only cover his body with his territory and vital essence. Boom. The realm and genuine vitality shook violently and were destroyed by the prison-suppressing steel. De's body shook violently. Even though he had cultivated the spirit body of 10,000 meridians, he could not withstand it. His face turned pale and he spat out a mouthful of blood. De's myriad meridian spirit body was very terrifying. If he cultivated it to perfection, its power would be amazing. Unfortunately, he had not cultivated it perfectly and had not completely succeeded. Therefore, he had always wanted to get Lu Ming's 9 dragon blood essence. De is injured. Many people's hearts trembled. De was injured and he was not Lu Ming's match. Was the winner going to be decided this time? Boom. Boom. Di was injured. Lu Ming launched an even more intense attack. A phoenix feather flying sword almost pierced through Di's heart and went through his shoulder, bringing out a stream of blood. Di's face turned even paler. Although the phoenix feather flying sword did not hit his vital parts, the terrible sword chi and destructive power still made him more seriously injured. The more serious his injuries were, the more difficult it would be for him to resist Lu Ming. Under the pressure of the prison-suppressing steel, he spat out a mouthful of blood, staggered, and his breath was weak. "I'm sleepy." The second body shouted, and the all formations diagram glowed. Large formations emerged one after another, enveloping De. De roared and tried his best to fight back, but this time he could not rush out. On his body, all kinds of true dragons and phoenixes were trembling, as if they would collapse at any moment. "De, today is the day you die." Lu Ming's cold voice came from the prison-defending monument's bloodline. Roar. With a dragon's roar, the 9-dragon bloodline flew out of the prison-suppressing steel. It opened its mouth and roared. The devouring power burst out and enveloped De and Martial Emperor. 9-dragon blood essence, strip. Lu Ming shouted and his devouring power increased rapidly. One of the unusual signs on De's body was a 9-dragon. At this time, the 9 dragons were swallowed by the devouring power and involuntarily flew to the bloodline of the 9 dragons. Lu Ming wanted to take away a drop of 9 dragons' blood essence from Martial Emperor De. "Don't even think about it." Martial Emperor De tried his best to resist. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 5 phoenix feather flying swords shot out. De blocked 4 of them, but he was stabbed by one which almost cut off half of his body. Roar. At this time the 9-dragon bloodline roared. The 9-dragon phenomenon on De's body flew toward the 9-dragon bloodline. At the same time, a drop of blood essence appeared on De's body. The dragon roared and flew toward Lu Ming. The blood essence of the 9 dragons was extracted. De was unwilling, but he could only watch helplessly. Whoosh. The blood essence of the 9 dragons flew into the mouths of the 9 dragons and disappeared. Roar. The bloodline of the 9 dragons let out a shocking roar as if it was very satisfied, and its aura bloomed. "Xie Qitian, if you don't make a move now, when will you?" Suddenly De let out an angry roar. Lu Ming raised his eyebrows. 9 heavens bronze man, come out. Xie Qitian's loud voice came from the sky. Thump, thump, boom. As soon as Xie Qitian's voice fell, violent tremors suddenly came from 9 different directions in the sacred city. 9 powerful auras soared into the sky. Then, everyone saw 9 golden rays of light rush up and fly into the sky. "That's a bronze man." Lu Ming saw that the 9 beams of light were clearly 9 bronze men. They were golden all over and cast in brass. They were more than 3 meters tall and dense inscriptions appeared on their bodies. Their auras were extremely powerful, and each of them was an emperor, equivalent to a first-level martial emperor. The 9 bronze men flew up into the sky and joined the battle, forcing the 9 sovereigns back. "Combine with the bronze man." Xie Qitian's voice was heard again. At this moment, from the Xie clan and the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace, 9 sovereigns flew towards the 9 bronze men. It was as though they were performing a bloodline fusion. The 9 sovereigns directly fused into the bronze men and disappeared. The auras of the 9 bronze men began to rise rapidly. He broke through the Lever 1 Martial Royal Realm and stepped into the Lever 2 Martial Royal Realm. He continued to improve until he reached the peak of the Lever 2 Martial Royal Realm. Peak of the 2nd level Martial Royal Realm, 9 peak of the 2nd level Martial Royal Realm. Not good. Lu Ming was greatly shocked. Kill? Kill? The 9 bronze men roared and charged towards the heaven-suppressing divine army and the Emperor of Northern Plains. A peak Lever 2 Martial Royal Realm expert was too powerful. An ordinary Lever 1 Martial Royal Realm expert would not be able to resist him. Instantly, screams were heard. Lu Ming saw that 5 sovereigns were killed in an instant. On the side of Northern Plains, there were mountain-breaking Martial Emperor, Heavenly Wind Martial Emperor, and the heaven-suppressing divine army was even worse off. 3 Martial Emperors were killed at once. 5 Martial Royal Realm experts were killed just like that. The other 4 bronze men were blocked by 2 Qian Xia Jianghu and the Baijian Martial Emperor. Otherwise the losses would have been even greater. Not good. That's the 9 heavens bronze man of the Xie clan. The 9 heavens bronze man of the Xie clan is still here. Retreat, quickly retreat. The heaven-suppressing Divine Legion and Northern Plains experts all shouted in fear. It was said that when the ancient Saint dynasty was first established, the first Saint Emperor had gathered all the experts in the world and used countless precious materials to create 9 bronze men. Each bronze man was extremely mysterious and powerful. However, it was said that the 9 bronze men of the Xie clan had been destroyed in countless wars over the years. It was unexpected that they were still here. Chapter 1347. 1347 The Divine 9-Dragon Cauldron out. The moment the 9 bronze men appeared, they were controlled by 9 emperors. Their combat strength reached the peak of Lever 2 Martial Royal Realm, instantly turning the tide of the battle. Boom. Di took advantage of Lu Ming's distraction to burst out. His body was burning like a flame. He broke out of the encirclement and flew high into the sky. Lu Ming, you're the ones who will die today. You're no match for me. Di roared, his body filled with cold killing intent. Gather together. The warring martial emperor gathered everyone. The Xie family's foundation was too shocking. No wonder it was said that the holy city had never been breached in the history. Who could rival such a powerful foundation? Under the control of the 9 martial emperors, the 9 bronze men were equivalent to the peak of the second-level martial emperor realm. 9 peak of the second-level martial emperor realm. How powerful was their combat power? Baijian martial emperor, Tu Qian, Xia Zhuyang, barbarian emperor, Yuexin martial emperor, and the others gathered together and looked at the 9 bronze men cautiously. Kill, exterminate them. Xia Qiqian gave the order. Kill. The 9 bronze men were 3 meters tall. They stepped in the air, and the air they stepped on exploded continuously. They formed an arc and headed toward the Baijian martial emperor and the others. Beside them were Xie Qiqian and the rest of the sovereigns. They've won. The Xie family and the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace will definitely win. There is no longer any suspense in this battle. From now on, the Divine Wilderness Continent will be the world of the Xie family and the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace. In the sacred city, many people who were watching the battle sighed. They felt that there was no longer any suspense in this battle. The Xie clan and the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace would definitely win. With the appearance of the 9 bronze men, the outcome of the battle was set. Some people sighed. This battle was too exciting. In the battle of the emperors, even the lives of emperors were like grass. Up until now, more than 10 emperors had fallen. This battle would be recorded in history and spread throughout the ages. A battle to the death. The battle martial emperor roared. Kill. Tu Qian held a battle axe in his hand as he charged towards a bronze man and chopped down with his axe. As for the bronze man, he punched out. Clang. Tu Qian controlled the emperor's spiritual weapon, and his battle strength was even stronger. He sent one of the bronze men flying with his axe. I'm not injured. The hearts of the warring martial emperor and the others trembled. Although Tu Qian had sent one of the bronze men flying and had the upper hand, the bronze man was completely fine. Only a shallow mark had appeared on his fist. It was too hard. Even an emperor's spiritual weapon couldn't damage it, so how could they fight it? A hint of despair flashed in the eyes of the warring martial emperor and the others. 3 of us will deal with this puppet. The others kill them all. Don't let a single one of them go. A voice came from one of the bronze men. Buzz. A few of the bronze men started to surround Tu Qian, while the others attacked the Baijian martial emperor and the others. Suddenly, 2 figures appeared in front of the warring martial emperor and the others. They were Lu Ming's main body and secondary body. At this moment, Lu Ming's main body had already returned to its human form. Leave these 9 bronze men to me. You guys go deal with the others. Lu Ming said. What? The warring martial emperor and the others were stunned. The 9 bronze men were given to Lu Ming. Lu Ming wanted to deal with the 9 bronze men alone? How was this possible? Although Lu Ming's combat strength was strong and he might be able to deal with 2 or even 3 of them, how could he be a match for so many 9 heavens bronze men? These were 9 bronze men at the peak of the second-level martial emperor realm. They were so hard that even an emperor's spiritual weapon could not break them. Even a third-level martial emperor might not be able to do anything to them. Lu Ming, if we work together, there might still be hope. That's right. It's too dangerous for you to be alone. The barbarian emperor, martial emperor Yuexin, and the others chimed in. Kill Lu Ming first. Since he's looking for death, then kill him first. High up in the sky, Xie Qitian shouted. Kill? Kill? Boom, boom, boom. The 9 bronze men charged at Lu Ming one after another. When the 9 bronze men attacked together, they seemed to be able to shatter some of the metal. Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron, suppress. The bloodline of the 9 dragons appeared above Lu Ming's head. They opened their mouths and roared. 9 huge cauldrons appeared from the mouths of the 9 dragons. As soon as the cauldrons appeared, they grew rapidly and were as large as mountains. They smashed toward the 9 bronze men. The Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron. You brought the Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron. In the sky, Martial Emperor De shouted in fear. The Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron, which had never moved, was refined by an ancient expert to suppress the 9 dragon veins. In history, Lu Ming was the only one who had made the Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron move once, and he had done so by relying on his 9 dragon bloodline. Even De, who had obtained a drop of 9 dragon blood essence, had refined it into his body in order to practice the spiritual body of 10,000 meridians. Therefore he could not touch the Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron. Moreover, if the Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron was too far away from the 9 dragon veins, the dragon veins would riot, and the Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron would fly back. Most importantly, why didn't anyone in 9 Dragons tell Lu Ming that he had taken the Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron? Roar. The 9 dragons roared, and the Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron pressed down on the 9 bronze men. Break. The 9 bronze men attacked at the same time and punched out. Thump. Boom. It was as if 2 metal mountains had crashed into each other. The sound waves from the collision of metal made some ordinary emperors pale, and the true essence covering their bodies trembled. Bang, bang, bang. Then the 9 bronze men were sent flying far away like a cannonball. How is that possible? Xie Qitian and the others were stunned. The 9 bronze men fell to the ground. They were no match for Lu Ming and were sent flying. How was this possible? On the other hand, the expressions of the warring martial emperor and the others were completely different. They were all ecstatic. Suppress. Lu Ming shouted as the 9 cauldrons continued to press down on the 9 bronze men. Back when Lu Ming was still in the spiritual ocean realm and his 9 dragon bloodline was only at the 2nd level of the divine level, he could control the Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron to fight against the Supreme. In the end, the 9 cauldrons gathered and he could even fight against De's avatar. Now, Lu Ming's cultivation level was many times stronger than it had been in the past. His 9 dragon bloodline had also reached the 9th level of the divine level. Naturally, the power of the Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron he controlled was many times stronger. He completely crushed the 9 bronze men. Boom, boom, boom. The Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron pressed down on the 9 bronze men. The bodies of the 9 bronze men trembled violently. The patterns on them emitted a brilliant light as if they were burning. However, in just a few breaths, it seemed to have been completely burned out, and the light on the bronze man's body quickly dimmed. Then with 9 consecutive bangs the 9 bronze men exploded. The 9 heavens bronze men, the 9 bronze men forged by the first Saint Emperor of the Xie clan of the ancient Saint dynasty, finally exploded into pieces under the bombardment of the Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron. The 9 sovereigns who had fused with the bronze men and controlled them didn't even have time to scream before they were turned into ashes. The 9 bronze men had been destroyed. The scene suddenly fell silent. Everyone seemed to be in disbelief at the scene they had just seen. Whoosh! At this moment, a corpse fell from the sky. Di Hongqing, it was Di Hongqing, he was killed. A figure flickered and Ciel Wan appeared, his demonic qi soaring to the sky. Chapter 1348. 1348 Di escaped. After all, Ciel Wan was stronger than Di Hongqing. He had finally killed Di Hongqing. Ciel Wan had naturally been paying attention to the battle this entire time, so he knew everything that was happening. Let's attack together and decide the winner. Ciel Wan's voice rang out, his killing intent as sharp as a blade. Attack. Kill. The warring martial emperor, Silua, barbarian emperor, and the others were all filled with fighting spirit as they charged towards the remaining sovereigns of the Xie clan and the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace. As for the remaining sovereigns of the Xie family and the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace, they didn't have any fighting spirit at all. Lu Ming is invincible. Run. Let's go. The sovereigns of the Xie family and the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace were almost scared out of their wits. At this moment they no longer had any intention to fight and turned to run. Clang. Clang. The divine nine-dragon cauldron shook and suppressed all directions, blocking the way. Buzz. Martial Emperor De suddenly rushed in one direction. The battle was over and De was ready to escape. De, where are you going? Lu Ming shouted, and the two divine nine-dragon cauldrons pressed down on De. Thump. Thump. De blocked it with his king's spiritual weapon, but it was not of much use. The sword hummed and De spat out a mouthful of blood. Cracks appeared on his body and he almost exploded. Burn! Martial Emperor De roared, and the true dragons, phoenixes and other phenomenons around him suddenly burned. His aura suddenly soared several times. Buzz! Martial Emperor De turned into a rainbow light and rushed out of the encirclement, flying into the distance. Chase! Without hesitation, Lu Ming controlled the divine nine-dragon cauldron and chased after Martial Emperor De. At the same time he secretly instructed Tu Qian to bring men to kill the remaining emperors of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace and the Xia clan. After being surrounded by the divine nine-dragon cauldron, the remaining sovereigns of the Xia clan and the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace were surrounded by Tu Qian, the Baijian Martial Emperor, and the others. He didn't need to worry about this place anymore. The overall situation had already been set. Although there were still some sovereigns left in the Xia clan and the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace, they were not too strong. Xia Zhangqiong was being held back by the old general, but the two of them were still fighting. On Lu Ming's side there were experts like Tu Qian, Xia Luan, the warring Martial Emperor, and Xia Zhiyang. Whoosh! Whoosh! The two of them instantly left. In the Imperial City, another battle broke out, but there was no suspense in this battle. The sovereigns of the Xia clan and the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace were all killed here. Lu Ming and De, one chasing and one escaping, traveled tens of thousands of miles in an instant. The second body took a step forward and disappeared between Lu Ming's eyebrows. At the same time runes appeared on Lu Ming's main body. These were all auxiliary runes that increased his speed. Lu Ming's speed increased greatly and he began to catch up with De and Martial Emperor. De, you've lost. Where do you want to go? Lu Ming's voice rang out. He activated the wind element technique and his speed increased. De's face was pale, and his eyes were cold and full of killing intent. Without saying a word, he gritted his teeth and fled. His body was burning with flames, which made him move at an astonishing speed. De was burning his spirit body of 10,000 meridians. Lu Ming, don't be happy too soon. I'm going to tear you into pieces this morning. De roared in his heart. His desire to kill Lu Ming was extremely strong. He had cultivated for 10,000 years, plundering all kinds of bloodlines and using the essence blood of various experts to cultivate the spirit body of 10,000 meridians. He was just a little bit away from completing his cultivation. But now all his previous efforts were in vain. In order to escape, he had burned the 10,000 meridian spirit body, turning all his hard work over the years into nothing. The two of them, one chasing and the other fleeing, broke through the void at an astonishing speed and traveled through the alternate dimension. Not long later he crossed Central Continent and arrived in Northern Plains. After that he flew towards the endless ocean. Damn it! Martial Emperor De roared in his heart and became more and more anxious. He was already seriously injured and after the long journey, his injuries had worsened. At this rate, Lu Ming would catch up to him. He was not willing to die here. He wanted to tear Lu Ming into pieces. Suddenly, he gritted his teeth and revealed a determined expression. Lu Ming, just you wait. De let out a roar and the flames on his body suddenly rose. Explode. Burn. De roared. Then his speed suddenly skyrocketed. He passed through layers of space and went far away at a high speed. The distance between him and Lu Ming was rapidly widening. This fellow? Lu Ming also admired De's decisiveness. He could see that De had completely burned his spirit body. His 10,000 meridian spirit body could be considered to have been cultivated in vain. Even if he escaped, De's realm might not be able to maintain it and would regress. In the future it would even be difficult to improve. In order to save his life, De had to give it his all. The distance between the two of them grew wider and wider. In the end, Lu Ming could barely see De's shadow. After a while, Lu Ming could no longer see or sense De's existence. Lu Ming had no choice but to stop. This fellow managed to escape. However, this fellow is seriously injured and has completely burned his spiritual body. His cultivation level will definitely decline and he will no longer be a threat to me in the future. However, Lu Ming frowned. He thought of Di Hongqing and the red-robed elder. Where did these two people come from? And he was using a unified emperor's spiritual weapon. Could it be that there was a powerful force behind Di? Lu Ming was not worried about Di himself. He was more worried about the possible forces behind Di. Forget it, I'll deal with it when the soldiers come, and I'll deal with it when the water comes. At the thought of this, Lu Ming turned around and headed toward the holy city. When Lu Ming returned to the holy city, the war had already ended. There was no suspense. With Tu Qian and Xiao Wan around, the battle was almost one-sided. Almost all of the emperors of the Empyrean Divine Palace had been killed. Only a few emperors from the overlord forces of the central continent had surrendered to De and were controlled by Xiao Wan and the others. They had to obey them obediently after the formation was set up. As for the Xia family's emperors, only a few were left. The rest had all been killed. Xia Qitian, the old divine emperor, Xia Zhangqiong, and a white-haired elder were surrounded by Xiao Wan and the others. Xiao Wan and the rest knew about the relationship between Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. They also knew that Xian Yanqing was a member of the Xia family. Therefore they did not kill these people. They deliberately waited for Lu Ming to return. Xia Qitian and the others stood on the platform, their eyes listless and full of despair. He was defeated, utterly defeated. This time, the Xia clan was even more miserable than when Xiao Wan had thrown the world into chaos and betrayed the Xia clan 30,000 years ago. Last time they had at least suppressed Xiao Wan and preserved some of their strength. There was still hope for them to slowly recover. But this time they had been completely defeated. All of their experts had died, and there was nothing they could do to reverse the situation. How did this happen? In the sacred city, countless disciples of the Xia family such as Xia Yan and others, were lying on the ground, their eyes listless. The Xia clan had been defeated and even the emperor had been defeated. The others were simply powerless to reverse the situation. If they made a move they would only be courting death. The other martial artists also had complicated looks in their eyes. Was the Xia clan of the ancient Saint dynasty, which had been around for millions of years, going to be destroyed? From now on, who would be the master of the divine wilderness continent's rise and fall? At the same time, many people's gazes turned to Lu Ming. Chapter 1349. 1349 The Dignity of a Saint Emperor. General Lu. General Lu. Seeing that Lu Ming had returned, the emperors saluted him one after another. They looked at Lu Ming with awe and respect. Be it the emperors of heaven suppressing divine army like 100 Battle Martial Emperor or the emperors of northern plains, they were all the same. They had won this battle all because of Lu Ming. In the beginning Lu Ming had displayed incredible combat power. He had killed the first emperor of the dead, the red-robed elder, and fought Di. Slowly the situation changed and they slowly gained the upper hand. After that, the Xia clan summoned the 9 Heavens Bronze Man, and the situation changed drastically. At that time they thought that they were going to lose, that there was no hope for this battle. However, at the critical moment, Lu Ming turned the tide and destroyed the 9 Heavens Bronze Man in one fell swoop. He killed the 9 emperors of the opposing side. This time the situation was completely reversed. They had secured victory. Without Lu Ming the consequences would be unimaginable. Hearing the commotion, Xia Qitian, the old divine emperor, and the rest trembled slightly. They also looked at Lu Ming with complicated gazes. It was all because of this young man that the Xia clan had fallen to such a state. Back then it was Lu Ming who had rescued Xiao Wan. Xiao Wan had thrown out the Heavenly King's token and changed the situation in the divine wilderness continent. It had also disrupted the Xia family's plans, directly leading to the great war that followed. And this time the Xia family had been completely defeated because of Lu Ming. Were we wrong? Was it worth it because of the purity of the bloodline? The old divine emperor seemed to have aged even more. He let out a long sigh, and when his voice fell into Xia Qitian's ears, it caused him to feel even more complicated. Yes, was it worth it? Speaking of which, he was not the cause of all this. If he had treated Xian Yanqing well, Lu Ming might have been with the Xia family and even become one of them. Then it was not impossible for the Xia family to rule the divine wilderness again. It was all because of him. He had personally turned Lu Ming into an enemy. At this moment he did not know what to feel. Lu Ming, where's Di? Xiao Wan walked toward Lu Ming and asked him telepathically. He escaped. Lu Ming answered. He escaped. Xiao Wan was slightly stunned. It doesn't matter. Di Yi's vitality has been greatly damaged. He can't cause any more trouble. Lu Ming nodded. General Lu, how should we deal with these people from the Xie family? Kill or not? An emperor asked Lu Ming. Everyone's gaze was on Lu Ming. After this battle, Lu Ming's position in the hearts of the crowd had become very important, even surpassing that of Xiao Wan. Lu Ming's gaze turned to Xian Yanqing. At this moment, Xian Yanqing was looking at Xie Qitian and the others. What was he thinking? Little Qing, I'll leave them to you. Lu Ming walked to Xian Yanqing and said. Xian Yanqing's eyes were filled with hesitation. Lu Ming sighed. He had already guessed this outcome. Xian Yanqing's expression was cold and ruthless, like a demoness, but deep down he was still very emotional. Xie Qitian was her father after all. The old divine emperor was her grandfather, her family. Although the Xie family was heartless to her, she couldn't bring herself to do it. General Lu, Miss Nianqing, the Xie family has a long history, deep foundation and many masters. It'll be a disaster if we keep them. That's right. I suggest that we kill them to avoid any future trouble. The other sovereigns also voiced their suggestions. You don't need to do anything. All of a sudden, Xie Qitian spoke as if he had made a decision. He stepped forward, exuding a powerful aura and dignity. This was the dignity of a sage emperor. Xie Qitian's gaze swept across the crowd, and his voice rang out from afar. I am the Saint Emperor of the ancient Saint dynasty. Even if I die, I will not die in your hands and I will not die in the hands of anyone else. After saying that, Xie Qitian pointed his finger at his dantian. A powerful aura burst out from his body, but it quickly weakened. At first it was a martial emperor, then it dropped to a supreme martial artist, and then it continued to drop to a spirit god, a spirit embryo. In the end, Xie Qitian's body did not have any true energy or true chi fluctuations, and he became an ordinary person. He had actually crippled his own cultivation. Xie Qitian spat out a mouthful of blood and fell limply to the ground. He, as the sage emperor, had to die with dignity. Even if he died, he couldn't die at the hands of others. Finally, Xie Qitian looked at Xian Yanqing with a complicated expression, as if he was reminiscing. After a while he said, Nianqing, I've let you down in this life. I've let your mother down. Xian Yanqing's body trembled at his words. Xie Qitian's age had long surpassed that of an ordinary person. Now that his cultivation had been crippled, he did not have much time left. Lu Ming held Xian Yanqing's small hand and he slowly calmed down. Sai, forget it. In this world there is no eternal dynasty, and there is no family that will exist forever. The old divine emperor sighed, then looked at Lu Ming. Lu Ming, the Xie family is willing to make a blood oath. All direct descendants of the Xie family are willing to seclude themselves in the palace. The palace will be sealed and they will not take a single step out of the palace for 10,000 years. From then on, we will no longer be involvered in the divine wilderness. Can you spare the Xie family? Seal yourself in the palace for 10,000 years and never step out. Lu Ming's gaze flickered. All right, I promise you. After pondering for a moment, Lu Ming said. The Xie clan was no longer a threat, not to mention that they had sealed themselves for 10,000 years. Lu Ming was confident that he could destroy the Xie family with a flip of his hand in 10 years, let alone 10,000 years. After 10,000 years, Lu Ming's realm would be beyond imagination. Why would he care about the Xie family? The other emperors didn't say anything. It was a given that Lu Ming would become an emperor. He would have a lifespan of 10 to 20,000 years. After 10,000 years, Lu Ming would not care about the Xie family. What could the Xie family do? Immediately the old divine emperor, Xie Zhangqiong, and the others all took blood oaths. The other higher-ups of the Xie family, such as the supreme beings and the spiritual god realm experts, all made a blood oath. Disciples of the Xie family, follow me into the imperial palace. As the old divine emperor's voice rang out, all of the Xie family's direct descendants followed the old divine emperor into the palace. After that, a light screen appeared outside the palace, enveloping it within. The Xie family would seal themselves for 10,000 years and would not be allowed to step out of the palace. The battle had finally come to an end. In this battle, more than half of the divine wilderness continent's sovereigns had fallen. More than 60 to 70% of the various overlord factions had been wiped out. It could be said that the divine wilderness continent had never been so weak, with so few sovereigns. Go. Let's go back to the 100 Beasts tribe. Lu Ming waved his hand, pulled Xian Yanqing and left. The heaven-suppressing Divine Legion, the Emperor of Northern Plains, followed Lu Ming and headed to Northern Plains. And news of this battle spread from the Holy City to the entire Divine Wilderness continent at an unbelievable speed. The Divine Wilderness continent was shaken. Chapter 1350. 1350 Who's the Master of the World? 100 Beasts Tribe Meeting Hall. The emperors of the heaven-suppressing Divine Army and the original emperors of Northern Plains were seated. Lu Ming and Xiao Wan were sitting at the very top. In the hall it was silent. Everyone looked at each other but no one made a sound. What should we do next? Xia Zhiyang was the first to speak, breaking the silence. What should he do? All sorts of thoughts flashed through everyone's mind. Now the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace was destroyed, and the Xie clan suffered heavy losses. They had sealed themselves as imperial palaces for 10,000 years. In the vast Divine Wilderness mainland, other than the Western Desert, it no longer had an owner. So what should they do next? In other words, how should they be distributed? In this boundless territory there were endless resources. Everyone wanted them. At a smaller scale, there were still some former overlord forces present, such as Qianxia Academy and the Floating Mountain. How should these forces distribute their territories? On a larger scale, it would be the heaven-suppressing Divine Army and the forces of Northern Plains. How would they get along and how would they be distributed? In fact, in Northern Plains there were two forces, Lu Ming and Xiao Wan, but they were only in an alliance. Everyone fell silent again, especially the heaven-suppressing Divine Army. This was an important problem. If it was not wrestle-levered properly, it might lead to another huge battle. However, the heaven-suppressing Divine Army was no match for Lu Ming and the others. If they were to fight, they would only be destroyed. Therefore, the powerhouses of the heaven-suppressing Divine Army had the most complicated feelings, and they found it difficult to speak. Two tigers can't share a mountain. Would Lu Ming and Xiao Wan be targeted next? In their hearts they were not confident. How about we form an alliance? After a long time Xiao Wan spoke. Alliance. Many people's hearts trembled as they pondered. Let's form an alliance. All the factions will form one faction. Then, the entire Divine Wilderness will be under our control. Why would we need to worry about territory and territory? Xiao Wan smiled. I agree. I also agree. In the beginning it was Chu Luo, Mo Yi and the others. Later on, Xia Zhiyang, the Barbarian Emperor, the Moon Heart Martial Emperor, and the others all spoke one after another, expressing their approval. Chaotic Sky Emperor's suggestion is good. This old man also agrees. The old general of the heaven-suppressing Divine Army laughed and expressed his thoughts. In the end, all eyes were on Lu Ming. Lu Ming had yet to speak. I also have no objections. Lu Ming smiled faintly. All right, then it's decided. Xiao Wan smiled. Since we're in an alliance, we need an alliance leader. Who's the alliance leader? Suddenly, an emperor spoke and the scene fell silent again. Who would be the alliance leader? Forming an alliance and forming a faction, there was no doubt that the alliance leader was the leader of this faction. He was also the master of the Divine Wilderness, ruling the world. The crowd could not help but look at the old general, Xiao Wan and Lu Ming. At the scene, only these three people were the most qualified. The alliance leader's person, of course, it's Lu Ming. Lu Ming is young and his combat strength is unparalleled. There has never been anyone like him in the Divine Wilderness since ancient times. Who else can it be other than him? Xia Zhiyang was the first to speak, recommending Lu Ming. That's right. If not for Lu Ming, we wouldn't be in this situation. It's Lu Ming who turned the tide and created this situation. I also recommend Lu Ming to be the alliance leader. One of the deans of the Qianxia Academy continued. I recommend Lu Ming too. Me too. Then, another dean of the Qianxia Academy, the Barbarian Emperor and Martial Emperor Yuexin, recommended Lu Ming one after another. Behind Lu Ming, the heaven-suppressing Divine Ape and Tu Qian were exuding auras that were even more obvious. Everyone's heart trembled. Unknowingly, the forces and abilities that Lu Ming controlled had already become so shocking. Lu Ming picked up a glass of wine and sipped slowly. He did not say a word and no one knew what he was thinking. The emperors of the heaven-suppressing Divine Army, Mo Yi, Chu Luo, and the others were all calculating something in their minds. Ah, that's right. I'm also interested in recommending Lu Ming as the alliance leader. Xiaowan laughed heartily as he expressed his thoughts. As soon as Xiaowan spoke, Mo Yi, Chu Luo, and the others also spoke up in support of Lu Ming. In the end, only the heaven-suppressing divine army was left. The emperor of the heaven-suppressing divine army sighed in his heart. He knew that they were weak and could not compete with Lu Ming. Now that Xiaowan was supporting Lu Ming, how could they say no? Old general, what do you think? Xiaowan looked at the old general with a faint smile. Brother Lu Ming, your talent is unprecedented and you have made the greatest contribution this time. It is the divine wilderness continent's fortune for Lu Ming to be the alliance leader. I have no objections. The old general said. As the old general spoke, the warring martial emperor and the others also recommended Lu Ming. Alright then, it's decided. This subordinate pays his respects to the alliance master. Xiaowan suddenly got up from his seat and walked down to bow to Lu Ming. This subordinate pays his respects to the alliance master. Xia Zhiyang, the barbarian emperor, and the others followed closely behind Xiaowan and bowed to Lu Ming. Following that, Xu Luo and the rest also bowed to Lu Ming one by one. Finally, it was the heaven-suppressing divine army and others. Alright, since the army holds it in such high regard, Lu Ming will take up the responsibility. Lu Ming stood up and accepted the position of alliance leader. He didn't decline, and there was no need to decline. He needed this identity to better protect his family and friends. Alliance master, since we want to form an alliance, what should we call it? Someone suggested. Alliance Master has awakened the bloodline of the 9 dragons and is famous throughout the world. In my opinion, why don't we call it the Dragon Alliance? Xia Zhiyang said after a moment of silence. Dragon Alliance? I think it's possible. It's concise and domineering. Xiaowan said. Alright, we'll call it the Dragon Alliance. Finally, Lu Ming decided. Now that the name had been chosen, the problem was, where would the headquarters of the Dragon Alliance be? It can't be set in the Holy City, right? Eastern Barren, Northern Plains, and Southern Nether were not good. The Dragon Alliance was bound to sweep across the world and unify the divine wilderness. Their headquarters should be in the central continent. Only then would they be able to look down on the world and shock the world. In the end, they decided that since the Dragon Alliance was going to be built, it would be best to build a new headquarters too. After some discussion, they decided to select disciples on the vast land of the central continent. In the end, they decided to build the headquarters of the Dragon Alliance on Mount Longyu, about 300 million li away, east of the Holy City. It was called the Imperial Dragon City. After the alliance leader and name were decided by the headquarters, they began to select the important leaders. Finally, Xiaowan and the old general of the heaven-suppressing divine army were the deputy chiefs of the Dragon Alliance. The other emperors would protect the Dragon Alliance. Each protector could manage a territory. After the leader was set, they were assigned their respective tasks. There were 2 main tasks at hand. The first was to dispatch manpower to build the Imperial Dragon City. The second was to send an army to truly unify the divine wilderness continent. The Xia family had sealed them slaviers and the Emperor Sky Divine Palace had been destroyed. The overlord forces that truly had an emperor were almost all from the Dragon Alliance. However, there were still countless other forces, big and small, below the overlord forces. All of these powers had to be in the hands of the Dragon Alliance. The entire divine wilderness continent had to be in their hands. Chapter 1351. 1351 Sweeping the world and returning to the East Continent. The next day when the news spread, all the forces in the Dragon Alliance cheered. The war was over and the Dragon Alliance dominated the world. The huge Dragon Alliance started to move. The original major forces had sent people to the Dragon Leap Mountain to build the Imperial Dragon City. A portion of them sent an army to conquer the world. A few days later, the news of the battle at the Holy City spread throughout the world. A magnitude 10 earthquake occurred in the divine wilderness. Countless cultivators and factions were stirred up. A few days later, the news of the Dragon Alliance's establishment and Lu Ming's appointment as the alliance leader spread throughout the divine wilderness continent again through the voice transmission Jade Talisman. Countless forces, big and small, surrendered and expressed their willingness to join the Dragon Alliance. Right now, the Xia clan had sealed them slaviers off as the Imperial Palace for 10,000 years. The Emperor Heaven Divine Palace had been destroyed, and the Dragon Alliance was truly unrivaled in the world. No power dared to resist. After that, the Dragon Alliance's army split into three. The old general led a large army and swept through the central continent. Xiao Wan led a large army to attack the southern underworld. As for Lu Ming, he would lead the army to the eastern barren territory. There was almost no doubt about this, all the forces in central continent surrendered. When Xiao Wan attacked the southern underworld, he only received a little resistance. Those who resisted were easily killed by Xiao Wan, and the rest surrendered. Half a month after the battle at the Holy City, Lu Ming led his men and set foot on the Yin and Yang mountain again. Mount Liangyi has finally been taken back. Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and the others stood high in the sky, looking at the vast land of Mount Liangyi in the distance. They were filled with emotions. When they were captured by Di, they thought that they would never be able to take back Mount Liangyi. They did not expect that they would return to Mount Liangyi so quickly in just a few months. Zongzi no Alliance Master. Bai Shijin and the rest looked at Lu Ming with complicated expressions. They did not know how to address him. Senior, since I'm Master Lien Cang's disciple, I'm also the Zongzi of the Talisman sect. You can call me Zongzi in private. Lu Ming said. Yes, Zongzi. Bai Shijin, Du Songjue and the others were overjoyed. Lu Ming was now the leader of the Dragon Alliance and ruled the world. They were afraid that Lu Ming would look down on the Talisman Amulet sect and did not know what to do with it. However, it seemed that Lu Ming had not forgotten his roots. There were many experts in the Dragon League. As for the Talisman Amulet sect, they still didn't have an emperor. They were afraid that the Talisman Amulet sect wouldn't be able to compete with the other experts in the Dragon Alliance. The other forces wouldn't be allocated enough resources and would eventually decline. However, they did not have to worry now. Lu Ming, the alliance leader, was the Zongzi of the Talisman Amulet sect. The Talisman Amulet sect had an extraordinary status in the Dragon Alliance. They did not have to worry about not being able to obtain resources without an emperor. Senior White, Senior Du, from now on, you two will lead the disciples of the Talisman Amulet sect to guard the Yin and Yang mountain. Lu Ming said. Yes, Zongzi. Bai Shijin and Du Songjue accepted the order. Let's go to 9 Dragons. Lu Ming waved his hand and the army set off for 9 Dragons. As for the divine 9-dragon cauldron, it would fly back to 9 dragons after the battle of the Holy City and suppress the 9-dragon veins again. To Lu Ming's surprise, they did not encounter any resistance when they arrived at 9 dragons. The forces in 9 dragons had already opened their gates. When Lu Ming's army arrived, they all knelt down and surrendered to Lu Ming. We pay our respects to the Alliance Master of the Dragon Alliance. We are willing to return to the Dragon Alliance and serve the Alliance Master. There were 5 to 6 supreme martial artists standing at the very front, bowing and saluting in fear. We're all old acquaintances. Lu Ming stood high in the sky and looked down at the 6 supreme martial artists. Out of the 6 supreme beings, 3 of them were Lu Ming's old acquaintances. They were the 3 remaining family heads of the 6 great ancient families: the Dongfang family, the Kong family and the Nangong family. The 3 clan heads broke out in cold sweat when Lu Ming's gaze swept over them. Alliance Master, we were blind in the past and offended you. From now on we'll be at your beck and call and do our best. The head of the Dongfang family said, his face covered in cold sweat. The pressure that Lu Ming was exuding made it difficult for him to breathe. They knew that as long as Lu Ming gave the order, not only them, but even their families would be exterminated. In the crowd behind him, many of the paragons who had dealt with Lu Ming before and even competed with him knelt on the ground. They had mixed feelings. For example, Dong Fangyu and the others. A few years ago, Lu Ming was still competing with them. However, a few years later, Lu Ming was already standing at the peak of the divine wilderness continent, ruling the world. There was really no way to compare. Lu Ming chuckled. The master of the Dongfang family and the rest trembled in fear. They did not understand what Lu Ming was thinking. Would he kill them? This kind of waiting was extremely torturous. After a long while, Lu Ming said indifferently, "All right, I will allow you to surrender. However, all of you will have to move out of 9 dragons to the northern plains. Do you have any objections?" "No, I have no objections. Thank you, Alliance Master, for showing mercy." This subordinate is extremely grateful. The head of the Dongfang family and the others let out a long breath and thanked him repeatedly. For them, although 9 dragons was their foundation and they had been developing here for nearly 10,000 years, it was a pity to move away. However, it was much better than the disaster of being killed and their families exterminated. Naturally, they did not dare to say anything. Not long after, the powerful forces in Nine Dragons started to use the inter-territory teleportation formation to head to Northern Plains. In Northern Plains, there would naturally be someone to arrange for them. As for the small forces in Nine Dragons, they were not necessary. They could not cause any trouble even if they stayed. After that, Lu Ming left Xia Zhuyang behind. Yan Kuangtu and the others took care of Nine Dragons, the original Heavenly Corpse sect, and the Myriad Demon Valley. Lu Ming went to the east alone. Not long after, Lu Ming entered the Tianshan region. However, he did not go to the Tianshan sub-palace immediately. The first place he went to was the 100 Deities Slope. News of the Battle of the Holy City had already spread throughout the entire Divine Wilderness continent, including the Tianshan region. Out of all the sub-palaces of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace, some of them were in chaos. Without any control, there were all sorts of incidents where people fought for the treasures of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. Some of the sub-palaces were restrained and were waiting for news. They knew that once the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace was destroyed, there would definitely be a powerful force that would take over the territory of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace. There would definitely be someone who would take over their territory. Tianshan Sub-Palace was not in chaos. In the middle of Tianshan City, in a courtyard, a few people were drinking tea and discussing something. The leader was Mu Tian, the palace master of Tianshan Sub-Palace. On the side, Mu Yi and Mu Zheng were there. I didn't expect that the vast Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace, which has been passed down for 10,000 years, would collapse so easily. Mu Yi drank a cup of wine and sighed. A few days ago they had received the news and were extremely shocked. It was simply unbelievable. The Emperor Heaven Divine Palace was such a huge existence, yet it had fallen. The path of martial arts is fraught with danger. Even a cultivation emperor can still fall if he's not careful. Mu Jing also sighed. It's said that more than 20 emperors died in this battle. Mu Tian said, his voice slightly interfering. The three brothers had an expression of disbelief on their faces. Chapter 1352. 1352 Chapter 1352 Re-entering 100 Deities Slope. In their eyes, an emperor was like a god. He ruled the world and was invincible. With a wave of his hand, the sky would collapse and the earth would crack. With a thought, he could kill hundreds of millions of people. They had never seen such a figure in their entire lives. However, more than 20 of such figures had died in a single battle. They simply couldn't imagine it. Lu Ming is the one who is leading all of this. Mu Tian suddenly let out another sigh. Mu Yi and Mu Zheng fell silent. Big brother, the Lu Ming you mentioned, is he the Lu Ming that walked out of our place? Mu Yi muttered to himself for a moment before asking. His eyes were filled with disbelief. It was said that the one who dominated that battle was a young genius named Lu Ming. He had killed more than 10 sovereigns and was terrifyingly powerful. That young man was called Lu Ming. Furthermore, after the war, almost all the emperors and powerful factions in the Divine Wilderness continent formed an alliance called the Dragon Alliance. The leader of the Dragon Alliance was also Lu Ming. I'm not sure. We're at the border and the information I received is not very detailed. I only know that Lu Ming was born in the East Continent. Mu Tian said, his eyes filled with anticipation. From the East Continent? Could it be the same person? Mu Yi and Mu Zheng let out a long breath. Boom. Boom. All of a sudden, a violent rumble was heard outside Tianshan City. What's going on? Mu Tian stood up abruptly and his voice could be heard from afar. Buzz. A figure appeared and quickly reported, Palace Master, things are bad. The Palace Master of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace branch in the Black Knife region has led people to attack. What? The Black Knife region? Mu Tian's expression changed. Damn it, the Black Knife region is taking advantage of a burning house. Mu Jing shouted angrily. When the news of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace being exterminated spread, all the branch palaces were in complete chaos. Some of the branch palaces directly seized the treasures belonging to the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace, and even seized the treasures of the other branch palaces. For example, the palace masters of the Black Knife region sub-palaces were like this, leading people to plunder everywhere. In any case, the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace had already been destroyed and no one cared about it. These people wanted to plunder a batch of treasures before escaping far away and hiding to cultivate. Bus, bus, whoosh. One figure after another rushed into Tianshan City, and powerful auras filled the air. Men welcome the enemy. Mu Tian shouted and soared into the sky. Mu Yi and Mu Zheng followed closely behind. At the same time, figures flew out from various parts of Tianshan City and gathered with Mu Tian and the others. As soon as they gathered, a group of people flew over. They were all wearing black robes and carrying black sabers on their backs. The person in the lead had a fierce-looking face, a beard and a burly body. Dao Heng, what do you want to do? Mu Tian shouted angrily. Haha, what do you want? It's very simple. Hand over all the spiritual herbs, materials and treasures of the profound sky sub-palace, and I'll spare your lives. The big man, also known as Dao Heng, laughed. Don't even think about it. Dao Heng, how dare you? Although the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace has been destroyed, the Dragon Alliance has been established and is ruling the world. They will definitely come to take over the original power of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. If you do this, you will be hunted down by the Dragon Alliance. Mu Tian shouted. Ah, what a joke. The Dragon Alliance is such a huge organization. How could they notice our desolate land so quickly? Even if they did, we're just a small fight in their eyes. They won't pursue the matter. Cut the crap and hand over the treasure. Dao Heng said maliciously. Don't even think about it. Mu Tian's attitude was unyielding. You're looking for death, kill? Kill. Dao Heng shouted and took the lead in charging towards Mu Tian. The people he brought with him also charged towards Mu Yi and the rest. The aura of the third level of the spiritual ocean realm bloomed from Mu Tian's body. After all these years of cultivation, Mu Tian's cultivation had improved a little, reaching the third level of the spiritual ocean realm. Mu Yi and Mu Zheng had also broken through their limits and entered the Spirit Sea realm. They were at the first level of the Spirit Sea realm. In addition, Tianshan Sub-Palace still had 2 martial artists at the first level of the spiritual ocean realm. However, the Black Knife region had even more experts, with a total of 8 martial artists at the spiritual ocean realm. Dao Heng's cultivation was also at the third level of the spiritual ocean realm. For a time, the Tianshan region was at a disadvantage. Kill? Kill? The battle between the two sides was very intense. People were constantly killed, and their corpses fell to the ground in Tianshan City. However, although the Black Knife region had the advantage, this was Tianshan City after all. The Tianshan region had the home ground advantage and could still fight with the Black Knife region by using various formations. Bus, bus, bus. Mu Tian and Dao Heng kept clashing with each other. After dozens of moves, neither of them had a clear winner. Mu Tian, I didn't expect that you actually broke through to the third level of the spiritual ocean realm without a sound. Dao Heng's anxious voice was heard. In the past, the Black Knife region's strength was stronger than the Tianshan region's, especially Dao Heng, who had a cultivation at the third level of the spiritual ocean realm. He was considered strong even among the palace masters of the nearby large regions. He didn't expect that Mu Tian's cultivation had also reached the third level of the spiritual ocean tier without a sound and could contend with him. The battle situation had suddenly turned into a state of anxiety. Lu Ming, on the other hand, went to the 100 Deities slope. The 100 Deities slope was filled with gray mist, just like it was in the past. With a sweep of his spiritual senses, Lu Ming discovered that there were still people guarding outside the 100 Deities slope. However, they were only at the king's level and were miles away from Lu Ming. Lu Ming's figure moved and he rushed into the 100 Deities slope. The guards did not notice him at all. As soon as he flew into the gray fog-filled area, Lu Ming felt a force acting on his body, preventing him from flying. However, Lu Ming's current cultivation level was much stronger than it had been in the past. By circulating his essential core, Lu Ming was able to offset this force and continued to fly in. The deeper he went, the stronger the power became. It was suppressing Lu Ming and trying to suppress his cultivation completely. Back then, when Lu Ming came in, his cultivation level was completely suppressed and he became an ordinary person. What powerful strength! Lu Ming could sense that the suppressive force from the outside world was not to be underestimated. It was very shocking. Even with Lu Ming's cultivation level, he had a feeling that he was about to be suppressed. Furthermore, the deeper he went, the stronger the feeling of suppression became. The intent realm floating here is also not simple. Lu Ming scanned his surroundings with his spiritual senses. Initially, when he entered, he was lucky and encountered many different types of intent. He used them to comprehend and increase the level of his intent. Those were all left behind by experts after they died. However, from Lu Ming's point of view, he saw something different. The artistic conception that floated between heaven and earth was indeed left behind by an expert after his death. However, Lu Ming could feel a terrifying pressure from it. Legend had it that the 100-deity slope was formed when the sky split open countless years ago and corpses fell down. Lu Ming estimated that those corpses were definitely above the level of an emperor. They were most likely the corpses of saints. Therefore, even though so many years had passed, he had to suppress his cultivation base when he entered with his current realm. Chaos. Lu Ming had a thought and the chaos concept surrounded his body. As soon as the chaos concept was released, Lu Ming felt his body lighten. The pressure disappeared without a trace. The chaos intent is so mysterious. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Chapter 1353. 1353 The Air-Frozen Bead. Since the chaos concept could block the pressure from the outside, Lu Ming had nothing to worry about. His figure flashed and he turned into a rainbow light, traversing the 100 deities slope. The reason why he came to the 100 deities slope was because he had obtained the lightning cauldron here. In addition, he had also seen a round bead here. There might be good stuff in the 100 deities slope. That was why Lu Ming came to explore. However, after a round, Lu Ming was disappointed. Other than the floating concept, Lu Ming did not find anything, let alone any treasures. Lu Ming was a little disappointed. After all, the 100 deities slope had been around for too many years. Furthermore, some treasures such as holy weapons were sentient and would fly away by themselves years. There might have been some treasures in the 100 deities slope in the distant past, but it had been too long. Some of them might have lost their spirituality and turned into yellow soil, while others might have flown away by themselves years. Previously, Lu Ming was really lucky to have obtained the Thunder Cauldron. All of a sudden Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He saw a strong wind blowing in front of him. In the strong wind, there was a round bead floating up and down. Outside the round bead, there was a small green bird flying. It's that bead. Lu Ming was overjoyed. He did not expect to encounter the round bead again. Buzz. Lu Ming's figure moved and he pounced toward the round bead. The bird on the bead seemed to be frightened. With a cry, it flew into the bead and the bead flew away with a green light. Where are you going? Lu Ming cast the wind element technique and moved like lightning, closing the distance between him and the bead in an instant. The bead was shocked again. It shook and with a whoosh, its speed increased greatly, pulling away from Lu Ming. How can it be so fast? Lu Ming was shocked, then overjoyed. This bead was not ordinary. Even if it was not as amazing as the lightning cauldron, it was at least better than an emperor's spiritual weapon. Since Lu Ming had seen it, how could he return empty-handed? Lu Ming increased his speed and chased after the round bead at top speed. Like two bolts of lightning, one chased and the other escaped. In a short while, they had circled the 100 deities slope several times. Buzz. At this moment, Lu Ming waved his hand and stretched out his hand. A huge claw that was 10 miles wide and wrapped in chaos intent took shape and grabbed at the pearl. The large hand immediately enveloped the bead. The bead buzzed and charged in one direction. However, when the bead came into contact with the chaos will, it suddenly stopped. It did not continue to escape. Instead, it approached the chaos will and trembled slightly. Lu Ming felt that the round bead was clearly enjoying it. Lu Ming sucked and grabbed the bead with his claws. Then he wrapped the bead with the chaos concept. As expected, the chaos concept resonated with the bead and a message appeared in Lu Ming's mind. Air-Frozen Bead. The bead was called Air-Frozen Bead, a wind attribute treasure. Buzz. The air-frozen bead shook and flew into Lu Ming's glabella. It stopped not far from the Thunder Cauldron in his sea of consciousness. With a single thought, a green energy surged into Lu Ming's body from the air-frozen bead. Lu Ming cast the wind element art and disappeared from his original spot with a single step, reappearing thousands of miles away. What a fast speed. The wind power in this bead can greatly increase my speed when I use the wind elemental technique. Lu Ming was overjoyed. An increase in speed meant that his ability to survive would be stronger. The air-frozen bead is more powerful than an emperor's spiritual weapon. There must be other mysteries to it. I'll study it slowly in the future. I'll go to Tianshan City first. Lu Ming smiled faintly. He then left the 100 Deities slope and headed towards Tianshan City. The Tianshan City's grand array was extremely intense, and there were constant casualties. Even Mu Tian, Mu Yi, and Mu Zheng were injured. The Tianshan City had suffered a great loss. However, the Black Knife region's losses were not small either. Damn it! Dao Heng roared in his heart. He didn't expect that Tianshan City would be so difficult to deal with. What a piece of trash. You can't even take down Tianshan City after such a long time. At this moment, a cold shout came from the sky. Boom. Then a powerful aura descended from the sky, causing Mu Tian and the others to turn pale. 7th level of the spiritual ocean realm. Mu Tian exclaimed and looked up. In the air, a figure wrapped in a black robe appeared. The shocking aura was coming from his body. My lord, you've come. Seeing this person, Dao Heng was overjoyed. The hearts of Mu Tian, Mu Zheng, and the others sank. Dao Heng addressed the other party as Sir. It was obvious that the other party was in Dao Heng's group. Who was it that even Dao Heng addressed him as Sir? Could it be that a higher-up of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace was taking the opportunity to plunder treasures? All sorts of thoughts flashed through Mu Tian and Mu Zheng's minds. Leave this person to me. You deal with the others and end the battle quickly. The black-robed man's voice rang out. A thin and long black sword appeared in his hand, and he thrust it at Mu Tian. The speed of this sword was shocking. Mu Tian's expression changed drastically as he quickly retreated. However, his body was not as fast as the sword light. The other party was at the 7th level of the spiritual ocean tier. His strength was much stronger than his. Don't hurt my father. At this moment, a delicate shout came from Tianshan City. A fiery red sword light flew out and collided with the sword light of the black-robed man. Clang. The black-robed man's sword light was blocked, and the fiery red sword light was also sent flying. Buzz. A figure rushed out from below and stood in front of Mu Tian. Lan, Mu Tian called out. Mulan. The figure that appeared behind her was Mulan. Mulan stood in the air, a powerful aura exuding from her body. She was also at the 7th level of the spiritual ocean realm. Father, why didn't you call me? Mulan said. Lan, you were in closed-door cultivation, so I didn't call you. Mu Tian said. I didn't expect that there would be such a beautiful girl here. What luck. The black-robed man's eyes were scanning Mulan's body with a fiery gaze. You're looking for death. Mulan shouted coldly. With the battle sword in hand, he charged towards the black-robed man. The two of them began to fight. For a moment, Mulan had the upper hand. After exchanging more than 10 moves, the black-robed man was completely at a disadvantage. Although their cultivation bases were similar, Mulan's combat strength was obviously above his. The more they fought, the more frightened the black-robed man became. Six brother, you've seen enough. Why aren't you attacking? Let's end this battle quickly. If we delay, there will be changes. The black-robed man suddenly shouted towards the sky. A second black-robed man appeared behind a cloud in the sky. This black-robed man's aura was even more shocking, reaching the 8th level of the spiritual ocean tier. Mu Tian and the others were shocked. The other party actually had so many experts. This little girl is mine. The black-robed man who appeared from behind looked at Mulan with a fiery gaze and spoke coldly. All right, it's yours then. The black-robed man in front gritted his teeth. Whoosh. The second black-robed man turned into a black light and charged toward Mulan. With the two black-robed men working together, in addition to the second black-robed man's cultivation at the 8th level of the spiritual ocean tier, the pressure on Mulan increased greatly, and she was at a disadvantage for a moment. Chapter 1354. 1354 Chapter 1354 Returning to Tianshan City. Lan, Mu Tian shouted worriedly. However, Mulan and the two black-robed men's cultivation levels were far above his, so he could not interfere at all. Mu Tian, you should worry about yourself. Saber Heng sneered and charged at Mu Tian. There was no longer any suspense in today's battle. As long as the two black-robed men could take down Mulan, it would be easy to deal with the others. As the battle continued, the situation became more and more disadvantageous for Tianxian City. Mulan was slowly falling into a disadvantageous position. Hee, this little girl is really beautiful. I've lived for so many years, but I've never seen such an alluring woman. The second black-robed man sneered. His attacks were like a violent storm, pouring down on Mulan. Mulan was panting heavily and sweating profusely. She couldn't hold on much longer. Boom. At this moment, an extremely terrifying aura suddenly descended from the sky. This aura was like the ruler of the universe, vast and unfathomable, like the abyss and the sea. A terrifying pressure instantly enveloped the entire Tianxian city. Ah! 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 Everyone from the Black Knife region, including Dao Heng and the two black-robed men, let out a blood-curdling screech. It was as if they had been hit by hundreds of mountains, and blood spurted out of their mouths. However, the strange thing was that Mu Tian, Mulan, and the rest of the Tianxian city people were completely fine. Everyone looked up into the sky and discovered that there was a blurry figure in the distant sky. It was shrouded in a halo like a god in the sky. He's the one. Mulan's expression changed. A complicated look flashed across her eyes. She bit her lip and flew down, disappearing from Tianxian city. Then, who was that? So strong. He's too strong. A heavenly deity? The martialists of Tianxian city looked up at the sky and spoke with dazed expressions. That aura made them look up to it and worship it. However, the aura only appeared for a very short time. As soon as it appeared, it was immediately retracted and disappeared. Then the figure in the sky descended. Lu Ming, it's you? Mu Tian was the first to exclaim when he saw the figure. Yes, the figure that had suddenly appeared was Lu Ming. Just now, as soon as he arrived at Tianxian city, he found that there was a great battle going on there. In a fit of anger, he released his aura and injured the black-robed man and the people from the Black Knife region. He had been merciful. Otherwise, the black-robed man and the others would have been reduced to ashes under Lu Ming's aura. Not even a trace of them would have been left. Lu Ming, it's really you. Mu Jing saw Lu Ming and flew over. What? Lu Ming, it's him. Lu Ming is back. Oh my god, that terrifying aura just now was actually emitted by Lu Ming. What realm has Lu Ming reached now? The rest of the people in Tianxian city exclaimed in disbelief when they saw Lu Ming. They could not believe that the godlike aura just now was emitted by Lu Ming. Senior. Lu Ming cupped his fists at Mu Zheng and Mu Tian. Lu Ming, why did you come back so suddenly? Mu Zheng was extremely happy to see Lu Ming. The Dragon Alliance is currently taking over the territory and forces of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace. I happened to be in 9 Dragons before, so I came back to take a look. Lu Ming said. Aha! What? The Dragon Alliance. Mu Tian, Mu Zheng, and the others started to nod. They suddenly thought of something and exclaimed. Mu Tian, Mu Zheng, and the rest looked at Lu Ming in shock. Lu Ming. I heard that there was a world-shaking war in the holy city of the Central Continent. The one who dominated the war was called Lu Ming. Also, the Dragon Alliance has swept the world. I heard that the leader of the Dragon Alliance is called Lu Ming. Then, was it you? Mu Tian stammered as he spoke. Mu Zheng and the rest were also staring at Lu Ming. Cough cough, that was indeed me. Lu Ming coughed dryly. Hiss hiss hiss. Mu Tian, Mu Zheng and the others gasped and were stunned. Even though they had such a guess before, they still found it hard to believe after it was confirmed. It was as if they were dreaming. The Alliance Master of the Dragon Alliance, the Overlord of the Divine Wilderness Continent, was actually Lu Ming, the Lu Ming who had come from the Tianxian region. It was too shocking. They were stunned for a moment before they reacted. Then they were overjoyed. They were certain that it was Lu Ming. That was because the aura that Lu Ming had just released was too shocking. He was like a god, like the master of the world. Compared to him, they were simply ants or even worse. However, one of them had a complicated look in his eyes. He was filled with anxiety. That was Mui. In the past, he had targeted Lu Ming in every way. Now, if Lu Ming wanted to settle the score with him, he didn't dare to continue thinking. Seniors, let's take a look at these people first. Lu Ming opened his mouth and sucked with his palm. The 2 black-robed men and Dao Heng were sucked over. Spare me, Lu Ming, no, Alliance Master Lu, spare me. Dao Heng shouted in shock. The two black-robed men were also trembling and begging for mercy. They had also heard the conversation between Lu Ming and the group just now. They were almost scared to death. This young man who had suddenly appeared was the newly established Alliance Master of the Dragon Alliance. Why would such an important figure suddenly appear in the tiny Tianxian city? It seemed like he was acquainted with Mu Tian and the others. Dao Heng and the others thought that they were dreaming, a terrible nightmare. Speak. Who ordered you to do this? Lu Ming's gaze turned cold as he berated them. Dao Heng and the rest were so frightened that they trembled all over. It was obvious that there was someone else behind the two black-robed men. It's the Blood Vulture sect. We're disciples of the Blood Vulture sect. The Blood Vulture sect wants to take advantage of the destruction of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace to secretly plunder a batch of treasures and strengthen their strength. The black-robed man who appeared first called out and told everything, not daring to hide anything. So it's the Blood Vulture sect. Mu Tian's expression changed. The Blood Ridge sect was the most powerful force in the surrounding dozens of large domains. It was said that it had a spiritual god expert. In the past, it had always relied on the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace and was a subsidiary sect of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. Now that the news of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace's destruction had spread, the Blood Ridge sect could no longer sit still and wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to make a fortune. The Blood Ridge sect no longer needs to exist. A cold glint flashed in Lu Ming's eyes. He then struck out with his palm. Boom. A huge crack appeared in the space under Lu Ming's palm, revealing a pitch-black void passage. Boom. The space passage trembled. Everyone could see that the other side of the space passage also cracked open, revealing an incomparably majestic mountain. Blood mist permeated the mountain. The Blood Ridge sect. This was the Blood Ridge sect. Lu Ming shouted as he flipped his hand and pressed down. Everyone watched in horror as a huge palm formed above the Blood Ridge sect. It covered the sky and pressed down on the Blood Ridge sect. One after another, figures from the Blood Ridge sect flew out of the giant mountain in fear, trying to escape. However, they all collapsed under the palm, their bodies and souls destroyed. Chapter 1355. 1355 Mulan's thoughts. Mu Tian, Mu Zheng, Mu Yi, and the rest had never seen such an unbelievable scene before. They were completely dumbstruck as they stood there in a daze, their eyes as big as chicken eggs. The two black-robed men trembled uncontrollably as if they were sieves. In their eyes, such a technique was like a legend. In fact, such a method was nothing to an emperor. Any ordinary emperor could cross billions of miles to kill an enemy. However, the further the distance, the less powerful it would be. Ordinary sovereigns could cross the void to kill their enemies, and even supreme beings would not be able to deal with them. Therefore, ordinary sovereigns would not do this when they encountered a powerful enemy. With Lu Ming's current combat strength, it was a piece of cake for him to annihilate a sect that only had a spiritual god realm cultivator across hundreds of millions of miles. However, Lu Ming did not kill the Blood Ridge sect's martial artists with lower cultivation. The ones he killed were all above the Sea of Soul realm. Thousands of powerhouses were turned into ashes by Lu Ming's palm, including the spiritual god powerhouse who was the leader. Whoosh! Suddenly, a beam of blood-red light shot into the sky from the Blood Ridge sect and fled into the distance. Blood Emperor of Cold Blood Hall, so you're the one behind this. Lu Ming's eyes turned cold and he shouted coldly. Lu Ming could tell at a glance that the beam of blood-red light from the Blood Ridge sect was the Blood Emperor from Cold Blood Hall. Back when Cold Blood Hall attacked the floating mountain, he led his men to rescue the floating mountain and besieged Cold Blood Hall. The Blood Emperor of Cold Blood Hall was severely injured by Mo Yi and Martial Emperor Yuexin, and only the spiritual god managed to escape. During this period of time, the Blood Emperor had not appeared. Lu Ming thought that the Blood Emperor's spiritual god had dissipated and his body and soul had been destroyed. He did not expect that the Blood Emperor's spiritual god would possess a body in a remote place like the East Baron. Until now, his cultivation had just recovered to the 7th level of the spiritual god realm. He was the one controlling the Blood Ridge sect from behind the scenes and plundering treasures from all over the place in order to help him recover. You want to leave? Where to? Lu Ming's glabella glowed. He took a step forward and rushed into the void passageway. At the same time he waved his hand and a phoenix feather flying sword flew out. It appeared on the other side of the void passageway in an instant and slashed at the Blood Emperor. The Blood Emperor let out an unreconciled scream as he was cut in half by the phoenix feather flying sword. He died on the spot. Buzz. He kept the phoenix feather flying sword and returned from the void passageway. It entered the space between Lu Ming's eyebrows. Lu Ming waved his hand and the space crack disappeared. However, Mu Tian and the others still had not recovered from their shock. They stood there in a daze. The series of events just now was simply too shocking. Was this the technique of the divine wilderness continent's peak experts? Was this the means of an emperor? It was like a legend. Some people even felt a chill run down their spines. Such a method was truly inconceivable. No wonder everyone was so respectful to the emperor and did not dare to show the slightest disrespect. That was because if you offended an emperor, the emperor could kill you from hundreds of millions of miles away. After a long while, Mu Tian and the rest came to their senses. When they looked at Lu Ming, their eyes were filled with deep respect. This was respect for power. Alliance Master, we already said that we can you spare my dog life? One of the black-robed men said in a trembling voice. Did I promise to let you go? Lu Ming said indifferently. With a wave of his hand, the two black-robed men and the experts who had come to attack Tianshan City were turned into ashes in an instant. It seems that I have to take down these small sects as soon as possible, Lu Ming muttered. Now that the overlord forces had been destroyed, the small forces under them would definitely be in chaos and start fighting. Only by taking them down as soon as possible and tidying them up could they avoid unnecessary killing. Oh right, where's senior sister Mulan? Lu Ming asked. Mu Tian, Mu Zheng and the others looked around but did not see Mulan. For a moment, they stammered and did not know what to say. Is senior sister Mulan not here? Then forget it. After pondering for a moment, Lu Ming smiled. Mu Tian and the others sighed in their hearts. Seniors, Lu Ming still has something to do and has to rush to Nine Dragons. If you want to leave the Tianshan region and move to the central continent in the future, feel free to send someone to inform me. Lu Ming said. We've lived in the Tianshan region for our entire lives and are used to it. We appreciate Alliance Master's good intentions. Mu Tian said. He had unconsciously changed the way he addressed her. Lu Ming naturally noticed it too. He sighed in his heart but did not say much. Now he was no longer the Lu Ming of the past, the teenager. He was now the noble leader of the Dragon Alliance and had dominated the world. Mu Tian and the others had changed their attitude towards him and were respectful of him. This was something that could not be helped. After that, Lu Ming bade farewell to Mu Tian and the rest and headed to Nine Dragons. After Lu Ming left, a figure flew out of a pavilion in Tianshan City. It was Mulan. Why didn't you come out to meet me just now? Mu Tian asked. Mulan looked in the direction that Lu Ming had left in. Her eyes were filled with longing, but there were more complicated emotions in them. My talent is far inferior to Lu Ming's. As time passes, the gap between us will only grow wider and wider. He and I are people from two different worlds. Mulan sighed. Mu Tian, Mu Zheng and the others also sighed. Even if I come out and stay by his side, what's the use? We can't grow old together. Mulan continued. That's right, her current cultivation was only at the spiritual ocean tier. She was very clear about her own talent. In this lifetime, the spirit embryo realm was her limit. She had almost no hope of reaching the spiritual god realm. However, a spirit embryo realm cultivator's lifespan was only 3,000 years. On the other hand, Lu Ming had a long lifespan. Even emperors could live for 10 to 20,000 years. If Lu Ming's cultivation level improved, his lifespan would be even longer. Even if she got together with Lu Ming, they would not be able to spend the rest of their lives together. Moreover, the person in Lu Ming's heart is not me. In the end, Mulan let out a long sigh before she turned around and returned to Tianshan City. Back then, Mulan had entered a secluded sect to cultivate in hopes of catching up to Lu Ming. However, she realized that the distance between them was growing further and further. It was so far that she could no longer catch up. In the end, all the friendship he had turned into a long sigh. Mulan was not the only one sighing. Hundreds of millions of miles away from Tianshan City, Lu Ming stood in the sky and sighed. Mulan was in Tianshan City, so he had naturally discovered her long ago. However, how could he not guess Mulan's thoughts? In that situation he could only play dumb. Otherwise, what could he do even if he met Mulan? How should they get along? Lu Ming could only suppress the ignorant friendship he had when he was young. He took a step forward and the space cracked open. Lu Ming disappeared into the space channel. After Lu Ming returned to Nine Dragons, he sped up the integration of the small forces and sections. Wherever the Dragon Alliance went, those small forces and sects naturally surrendered and joined the Dragon Alliance. Even if there were some obstacles, they would be suppressed by the lightning. The Dragon Alliance had officially infiltrated every corner of the Divine Wilderness continent and ruled the world. Of course, Lu Ming did not know that a crisis was approaching him. In the blink of an eye, 2 months had passed. Chapter 1356. 1356. The vast imperial dragon city. In the northern plains, in a courtyard of the 100 Beasts tribe, Lu Ming was teaching his 2 in-name disciples, Zhuang Shaoshan and Zhuang Xiaorou. After Lu Ming's rise, he had ample resources. He had all sorts of esoteric crystals, elixirs and other things. Therefore, Zhuang Shaoshan and Zhuang Xiaorou's cultivation had also progressed very quickly. Now they had both broken through to the Sea of Souls realm. Shaoshan, although you've made rapid progress in your Earth Intent realm by using intent crystals, you haven't excavated enough of it. In the future you have to comprehend more and excavate more. It'll be of great help to your future cultivation. Do you understand? Lu Ming pointed at Zhuang Shaoshan. Understood, master. Zhuang Shaoshan quickly nodded. The 2 siblings looked at Lu Ming with eyes full of admiration. Although the 2 of them were only Lu Ming's in-name disciples, Lu Ming did not have any true disciples at all. He only had 2 in-name disciples. Hence, they had a very special status in the Dragon Alliance. Many experts, even emperors, would be very polite to them. In the past they would not have dared to imagine this. But now it was happening right before their eyes. They understood that all of this was because of Lu Ming. Without Lu Ming they would be nothing. Even spirit embryo realm martial artists would regard them as ants, let alone emperors. But now they only needed to say a word and countless spirit embryo realm and even spiritual god realm experts would risk their lives for them. In fact, even the emperor would help them. All of this was because of Lu Ming. They also understood that they were not very talented. In the Divine Wilderness continent, there were many people who were more talented than them. They were lucky to become Lu Ming's in-name disciples. It was a blessing that they had cultivated for several lifetimes. Therefore they cultivated very hard. Shaoshan, I'll display the earth concept for you to comprehend carefully. Lu Ming's voice interrupted Zhuang Shaoshan's complicated thoughts. He quickly focused. Boom. The aura of the will of the earth bloomed from Lu Ming's body. The thick and heavy will of the earth enveloped Zhuang Shaoshan. Zhuang Shaoshan immediately closed his eyes, sat cross-legged and quietly comprehended. Xiaorou, come over here and feel the water concept. Lu Ming said to Zhuang Xiaorou. Yes, master. Yes, Zhuang Xiaorou replied obediently. She blinked her big eyes and looked at Lu Ming with admiration. In comparison, Zhuang Xiaorou was more talented than Zhuang Shaoshan. Lu Ming waved his hand and the concept of water spread out. Like a river, it enveloped Zhuang Xiaorou. Zhuang Xiaorou quickly sat down cross-legged and began to comprehend. Throughout the journey, Lu Ming only had time to teach these 2 disciples because he was free during this period of time. In the past 2 months, everything had been developing in an orderly manner. Some time ago, Lu Ming had invited 9 sovereigns to cleanse Li Ping's meridians and marrow with the serum as the foundation. Li Ping had been reborn from an ordinary mortal who could not cultivate and had become an extremely talented martial arts genius. During this period of time, she had been cultivating with Lu Yuntian and her cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds. Of course, Lu Ming had also helped Lu Yuntian, Hua Qi, and the others to improve their physiques and talents. Their cultivation base had improved by leaps and bounds. At the same time, Lu Ming sent out a purchase order to the entire Divine Wilderness continent. He was willing to purchase the 7 main spiritual ingredients for the Nirvana elixir at a high price, hoping to refine another batch of Nirvana elixir. The progress was rather smooth. During this period of time, he had already collected 5 out of the 7 main mystical materials. It was beyond Lu Ming's expectations. The greater part of the construction of Dragon Emperor City had been completed. Zhang Tai believed that it would be fully completed in 2 months. Therefore, the higher-ups of the Dragon Alliance decided to hold an alliance ceremony in the Imperial Dragon City 3 months later to announce to the world that the Dragon Alliance was officially established. At the same time, they would give each of the powerful figures and each of the major forces their own territory. The entire Divine Wilderness continent was looking forward to that day. When that day came, the world would celebrate. In the western part of the Divine Wilderness continent, across the vast ocean, there was a continent called the White Feather Continent. This continent was the strongest continent in the southern Divine Palace of the Divine Ruins Continent Group. It was ranked 4th in the Divine Ruins Continent Group. In the eastern part of the White Feather Continent, in a wild valley, there was a cloud of blood mist surging wildly. It kept rolling and rolling. It was terrifying. The valley was filled with the bones of demonic beasts. Judging from the aura emitted by the skeletons, they were all extremely powerful existences. Most of them were advanced spiritual gods, and there were even quite a few supreme-level ones. After a while, the blood mist disappeared, revealing a figure. It was Di. "Damn it, Lu Ming, I'll definitely tear you into pieces." Di roared, full of murderous intent. Now his aura was several times weaker than before. He was only at the first level of the Martial Emperor realm. Also, the 10,000 meridian spirit body that he had cultivated for 10,000 years had been completely burned away when he was escaping for his life. Damn it. My myriad meridian spirit body was about to succeed and become an Earth-grade spirit body. By then, my cultivation speed and combat strength would definitely increase greatly. I would definitely be valued by the family. It's all Lu Ming's fault. Di kept roaring and was extremely agitated. After a long time he calmed down a little. The clan should have received the news that I've sent to them. The experts in the clan should be here soon. Lu Ming, I'll make you wish you were dead. Di's eyes were filled with cold killing intent. Divine Wilderness Continent, Northern Plains. 3 hours later, Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiaoro woke up from their enlightenment. Alright, go back and comprehend it well. I'll test you after a while and see the results of your cultivation. Lu Ming instructed. Yes, master. Disciple will take my leave. Zhuang Xiaoro and Zhuang Xiaoshan bowed and left. Let's take a look in Dragon Emperor City. Lu Ming stood up, took a step forward, and disappeared. Not long after, Lu Ming arrived at the Imperial Dragon City. More than half of the Imperial Dragon City had been built. The construction of the Imperial Dragon City was done by martial arts and inscription masters, selected from all the major forces, and even with the help of emperors. However, it still took such a long time, which showed how vast and majestic the project was. Lu Ming stood high in the sky above the Imperial Dragon City. He could not see the end of the city. At the 4 gates of the Imperial Dragon City, there was a 10,000 feet tall statue. The owner of the statue was Lu Ming. Entering from the south gate, there was a passage called the Path of the Divine Dragon. It led to a square paved with white jade. There were countless seats around the square, which were prepared to receive guests from all directions. The entire Imperial Dragon City was built on the original Longyu Mountain. Longyu Mountain originally had a huge eye of Tao. Cultivating here would help one comprehend the essence realm of heaven and earth much faster. After that, several emperors moved a few more Taoist eyes from other places with great superpowers, making the artistic conception of the Imperial Dragon City even clearer. Moreover, the emperors had worked together to transfer a few spiritual eyes over. In addition, the emperors who cultivated the Tao of inscription had inscribed the energy-gathering formation here, so the spiritual qi here was so dense that it was almost impossible to disperse. The entire Dragon Emperor city became a holy land for cultivation. Chapter 1357. 1357 Chapter 1357 Entering the Nine Dragon Ruins. Lu Ming took a look and was very satisfied. Then he looked to the east. There was a place that he had to visit, and that was the remains of 9 dragons. During this period of time, Lu Ming had refined the drop of 9 dragons' blood essence that he had obtained from De and integrated it into the blood of the 9 dragons. He had obtained more memory fragments of the 9 dragons. It was time to go to the ruins of 9 dragons. He took a step forward and the space cracked automatically. Lu Ming's figure disappeared without a trace. The relic of the 9 dragons was located at the border between the East Baron and the Central Continent, in the chaotic area. Lu Ming's figure appeared in the chaotic realm silently and headed toward the Nine Dragons' ruins. As Lu Ming flew, the area in front of him became more and more desolate. There was not a single blade of grass in the vast mountains. It was a barren land, as if all the vitality had been devoured by something. Further ahead, the lonely mountain turned into a desert, even more deathly silent. When Lu Ming arrived at the center of the desert, he saw a cave. It was an unfathomably deep cave, pitch black, and it led to the depths of the earth. At the edge of the cave, there was a dark yellow stone tablet with a line of words written on it. Those above the Emperor level would die if they entered. Each word was filled with killing intent. It was as if there was a terrifying killing intent in them, making people feel cold all over. As expected, Lu Ming's heart stirred. There had always been a legend that no one above the Emperor level could enter the ruins of the Nine Dragons. Entering meant death. That was why Martial Emperor De didn't dare to enter himself, but let Nine Sons Supreme enter. Lu Ming's glabella glowed and he appeared next to her. The second body had already broken through to the Emperor realm and could not enter. Buzz. Lu Ming's main body did not hesitate and rushed into the dark cave. As soon as he entered, a terrifying force came from the cave, causing Lu Ming's body to sink as if he was carrying tens of thousands of mountains on his back. Moreover, the speed of his descent was getting faster and faster. Stop. In Lu Ming's body, the essential core burst forth to resist the force. Although there was some effect, the effect was not very good. It was just that the speed of decline had slowed down a little. It was only when Lu Ming used the chaos concept that he was able to resist the force and control his body freely. Lu Ming controlled himself and descended at an even speed. The cave was unfathomably deep. Lu Ming could feel that he had descended a few hundred miles, but he was still going deeper. Moreover, at the edge of the cave, Lu Ming felt a terrifying murderous intent more than once. It was as if a wave of energy swept across his body and then retracted. Lu Ming guessed that if his cultivation level surpassed the Emperor level, he would be attacked. Lu Ming estimated that he had finally reached the bottom after descending for about 1,000 miles. With a sweep of his gaze, the bottom of the cave was covered in a thick layer of bones. Some of the bones were crystal clear as if they were made of fine jade. Some of the bones were golden as if they were made of gold. It was easy to imagine that the owners of these bones must have been extremely powerful people or even emperors, but they were buried here in the end. One could imagine how dangerous the Nine Dragon ruins was. Lu Ming landed on the ground of the cave and still felt a strong pressure. His movements were greatly affected. His movements slowed down and it became difficult for him to fly. In front of the cave there was a straight cave that was still dark. Lu Ming circulated his essential core and walked 100 meters with each step. He passed by the skeletons and walked towards the cave ahead. Roar. But before he could go far, a dragon's roar sounded. A blood dragon that seemed to be formed from blood mist pounced at Lu Ming. A true dragon. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. This blood dragon had 5 dragon claws on its abdomen. It was a 5-clawed true dragon. Buzz. The 5-clawed blood dragon pounced at Lu Ming with shocking power. Supreme Martial Artist. This 5-clawed blood dragon had the combat strength of a supreme being. Boom. Lu Ming's fist landed on the blood dragon's claw. The powerful force crushed the blood dragon's claw. Then the fist force crushed the blood dragon's body and it collapsed. Lu Ming continued to move forward. Roar. Roar. He had just walked about 1,000 meters when another dragon's roar was heard. This time there were 2. 2 5-clawed blood dragons appeared and charged toward Lu Ming. They were also at the Supreme Being level. Naturally, it was easily defeated by Lu Ming. Lu Ming continued to move forward, but not long after, 3 blood dragons appeared. As he continued, more and more blood dragons appeared. In the end, 9 5-clawed blood dragons appeared together. It was equivalent to 9 Supremes besieging Lu Ming. With Lu Ming's combat strength, it was not difficult for him to defeat them one by one. However, after passing through the siege of the 9 blood dragons, Lu Ming was attacked again when he continued to move forward. This time only 3 blood dragons appeared. However, the difference was that each of the 3 blood dragons had 6 dragon claws on their abdomens. The combat strength of a 6-clawed blood dragon was much higher than a 5-clawed blood dragon. However, they were still no match for Lu Ming. As Lu Ming charged through, the number of 6-clawed blood dragons increased. After Lu Ming broke through the siege of 9 6-clawed blood dragons, another seven-clawed blood dragon appeared. The difficulty level was getting higher and higher. Lu Ming arrived at an underground stone room after he passed through 9 blood dragons with 7 claws. Lu Ming discovered that there were a few boxes in the stone room. However, the boxes had been opened and there was nothing inside. This must be the place Senior Jianghu came to in the past, Lu Ming muttered. He had asked Xia Jianghu about the 9 dragon ruins before, and Xia Jianghu had told him in detail. Back then, Xia Jianghu had passed through 9 seven-clawed blood dragons to come to this stone chamber. The 2 drops of 9 dragon blood essence, the 9 dragons heaven-stomping steps, and the True War Dragon Technique Foundation Establishment chapter were all obtained from here. They were all placed in these boxes. Back then, the 9 Suns Supreme had reached his limit. If he continued, he would have to face the 8-clawed blood dragon, whose combat strength was even more amazing. Xia Jianghu was no match for him at all. Continue. Lu Ming strode forward and walked to the cave in front of the stone room. As expected, the blood dragons that appeared in front of him each had 8 dragon claws and shocking combat strength. The combat strength of one was equivalent to a human supreme who had awakened a 9th-level divine bloodline. It was extremely powerful. However, it still could not stop Lu Ming. Lu Ming continued to pass through the levels. After defeating the 9 8-clawed blood dragons, a deafening dragon's roar was heard. A gigantic 9-clawed dragon appeared in front of Lu Ming. Yes, it was 9 dragons with 9 dragon claws. Although his aura was also at the Supreme Being level, Lu Ming felt that he was extremely dangerous. Roar. The 9 dragon bloodline appeared above Lu Ming's head and he transformed into 9 dragons. Roar. Roar. The 2 9 dragons pounced on each other. The 9 dragons here were so powerful that even an ordinary martial royal realm expert would not be their match. They were at least equivalent to a 2nd-level martial royal realm expert. In the beginning, Lu Ming was not his match. He only started to suppress his opponent after he cast the Chaos Will. One of them is already so strong. If there are more or even 9 of them, how can we fight them? Lu Ming's expression was grave. Chapter 1358. 1358 Gathering of the Blood Essence of 9 Dragons. Lu Ming was confident that he could win if there were only 1, but if there were 2 or 3, Lu Ming could only barely maintain a tie. If there were 9, Lu Ming could only run away in defeat. Could it be that even he couldn't pass it? Or perhaps he could only pass it after he broke through to the Supreme Being realm? Lu Ming had a few thoughts. After a few more moves, Lu Ming rose and tore the 9 blood-red dragons apart. Unexpectedly, after the 9 crimson dragons were torn apart, Lu Ming continued to move forward but no other 9 crimson dragons appeared. After walking for a while, a huge underground cave appeared in front of him. As soon as Lu Ming entered, he heard a series of dragon roars. However, he could only hear the dragon's roar and not see its body. That's... Lu Ming's gaze was fixed on the air in the cave. He was completely attracted. 7 blood-red beads floated in the air above the underground cave. Each bead seemed to be made of blood-red jade. They were smooth and round and they emitted shocking energy fluctuations. Blood essence, the blood essence of 9 dragons. Lu Ming's eyes brightened and his heart started to beat rapidly. He had finally found the blood essence of 9 dragons. The remaining 7 drops of 9 dragon blood essence. Roar. As if it had sensed something, Lu Ming's spine heated up. The 9 dragon bloodline flew out on its own and opened its mouth to roar. Buzz. Whoosh. The 7 drops of 9 dragon blood essence also trembled. Each drop was suffused with blood light, and a small dragon flew out, resonating with the bloodline of the 9 dragons. Refine it. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. He controlled the 9 dragons' blood and swallowed 1 drop of the 9 dragons' blood essence. Boom. As soon as the drop of 9 dragon blood essence entered the mouth of the 9 dragon bloodline, it exploded and turned into infinite energy, fusing with the 9 dragon bloodline. Lu Ming sat cross-legged and continued refining after refining 1 drop. With every drop refined, a piece of information would appear in Lu Ming's mind. It was the memory fragments of the 9 dragons. Of course, Lu Ming's cultivation level did not increase. The energy in the blood essence was all integrated into the 9 dragon bloodlines. It seemed to be stored and made the 9 dragon bloodlines more and more real, almost like real 9 dragons. After 7 days, 7 drops of 9 dragon blood essence were completely integrated into the bloodline of the 9 dragons. At this moment, there was a lot of information in Lu Ming's mind. They were all fragments of the Nine Dragons' memory. These fragments slowly overlapped and formed a complete message. True War Dragon Technique Metamorphosis Stage Dragon God Combat Body. Lu Ming's face revealed a smile. The True War Dragon technique that he had cultivated before was the Foundation stage. The main content of the Foundation Establishment chapter was the content before the Martial Emperor realm. After the Martial Emperor realm, the Foundation Establishment chapter was useless and required the subsequent chapters. Now he finally got it. The extraordinary chapter of the True War Dragon Technique Dragon God Combat Body, as the name suggested, was mainly about the cultivation of the spirit body. The cultivation of a spirit body was to integrate the bloodline into the physical body and turn it into a higher-level spirit body through the tempering of the lightning tribulation. In other words, those below the rank of Martial Emperor were still mortals, while those above the rank of Martial Emperor had already transcended mortals and reached a higher level. The extraordinary section was to transform the bloodline of the Nine Dragons into the physical body and cultivate a spirit body. This spirit body was called the Dragon God Combat Body and was extremely powerful. From the Nine Dragons' memories, Lu Ming knew that spirit bodies were also divided into levels. They were divided into ordinary spiritual body, earth spiritual body, and heaven spiritual body. Each level was further divided into lower, middle, and upper grades. According to the Nine Dragons' memories and experience in the Divine Wilderness continent, and even the Divine Ruins continent, most of the spirit bodies of the emperors were low-tier ordinary spirit bodies, with a small number of them being mid-tier ordinary spirit bodies. Xie Wan's immortal demon body and Xia Jiuyang's nine-yang divine body should be superior ordinary spirit bodies. If Di Yi's myriad meridian spiritual body was successfully cultivated, it was likely to be a low-grade earth spiritual body. A low-grade earth spiritual body was extremely powerful and much stronger than a normal spiritual body. It was a pity that Di Yi had spent 10,000 years stripping away the bloodlines and essence blood of various experts, but he had not succeeded in cultivating it. It was not perfect, and its power was only equivalent to that of a superior ordinary spirit body. That was why he wanted to steal Lu Ming's Nine Dragons' blood essence. His goal was to cultivate the myriad meridian spirit body. If he could successfully cultivate it, he would be invincible among emperors of the same level. Killing emperors of the same level would be a piece of cake for him, and even fighting against those of a higher level would be normal. If Lu Ming were to successfully cultivate the Dragon God Combat Body, he would have a low-grade earthly spiritual body after he became a martial emperor. Most importantly, the Dragon God Combat Body could be upgraded, just like his previous bloodline, which could be upgraded continuously. Lu Ming was very tempted by this. Another thing that tempted Lu Ming was that if he cultivated his spirit body with the Nine Dragons' bloodline and transformed into the Dragon God Combat Body, he might be able to retain the Nine Dragons' Devour skill. In the past, Lu Ming had been struggling with which blood meridian he should use to cultivate the spirit body when he broke through to the Martial Emperor realm. The prison-suppressing steel bloodline seemed to be stronger than the Nine Dragons' bloodline. As for the third bloodline, it was even more mysterious. But now, Lu Ming had made up his mind to cultivate the spirit body with the Nine Dragon bloodline. He could keep the prison-suppressing steel and the third bloodline. He felt that even after he broke through to the Emperor realm, these two bloodlines would still be of great use to him. Next, Lu Ming looked at other memories. Yes, it's much less. After a while, Lu Ming had an idea. Originally, he had thought that he would be able to obtain the complete memories of the Nine Dragons after fusing with the 9 drops of blood essence. But now he realized that it wasn't the case. A large portion of his memories were blank. For example, where did the 9 dragons come from? What had happened back then? With the 9 dragons' combat strength, why had they fallen? Who killed the 9 dragons? What happened in the heavenly realm? These important memories were a complete blank. Could it be that the 9 dragons did this on purpose before they died? Lu Ming made a guess. However, although he didn't have these memories, the other memories were still priceless treasures. In his memory, there were some powerful combat skills that could only be cultivated after breaking through to the Emperor realm or higher. Every single one of them was a priceless treasure. At the same time, through the 9 dragons' memories, Lu Ming finally knew the cultivation realms after that. After the Martial Emperor, it was the Martial Saint. Martial Saints were also known as the Saint Realm or Saint Realm. A Martial Saint could live for more than 100,000 years. They were unparalleled in battle strength and could dominate the world. Compared to them, emperors were thousands of miles away. However, the Martial Saint realm was not the highest realm, nor was it the peak. Above the Martial Saint realm was the peak, which was the Martial Sovereign. A Martial Emperor was also known as a Great Emperor. This was the true pinnacle of the world. Their lifespans were almost endless and they stood at the peak of the world. They were unbelievably powerful. With a wave of their hands, they could probably destroy a mainland like the Divine Wilderness continent. This world did not only refer to the primordial realm, but also the heaven realm. A Martial Emperor was a peak expert. Back then, the 9 dragons were at this realm and the top 10 war beasts were all at this realm. Martial Emperor, Great Emperor. Lu Ming's eyes were filled with yearning. His goal was to stand at the peak of the world. He had to become a Martial Supreme in the future. Lu Ming's fists were clenched tightly. Chapter 1359. 1359 Chapter 1359 Condensing the Prototype Domain. Lu Ming closed his eyes and quietly digested part of the 9 dragons' memory. This part of the memory was very precious. It included the knowledge of many natural treasures and most importantly, the cultivation experience of the 9 dragons. Jiulong was a powerhouse at the peak of the Martial Supreme Realm. How precious was his cultivation essence experience? Lu Ming slowly digested the information. In the blink of an eye, another half a month had passed. Lu Ming finally opened his eyes. There was a hint of solemnness in his eyes. The 9 dragons' memories also contained information regarding the chaos intent. In the 9 dragons' memories, the chaos intent was the king of all intents in the world. It was extremely powerful, but it was also extremely difficult to cultivate. Especially when it came to breaking through, it was extremely difficult to turn intent into a domain. Lu Ming had known about this for a long time. When he used the domain solidifying pill back then, it did not have much of an effect. Even if a normal martial artist did not have a domain solidifying pill, he could slowly disolivere the intent runes and merge them into his spiritual spirit in 1 or 2 years. However, the difficulty of cultivating the chaos concept was more than 100 times that of ordinary concepts. In other words, if Lu Ming cultivated step by step, he would need at least 100 years to cultivate a prototype domain and step into the supreme level. 100 years was too long. It was too long for Lu Ming. No, these 100 years are the golden years for me to practice. If I spend more than 100 years practicing the chaos it'll be equivalent to killing my potential. Not only will the other geniuses leave me far behind, but my potential will also be exhausted, and my future achievements will be limited. Lu Ming pondered in his heart. After a long while, Lu Ming gritted his teeth, a hint of ruthlessness in his eyes. Go all out. Let's go all out. According to the cultivation experience of the 9 dragons, Lu Ming found a way. This method could allow Lu Ming to condense an embryonic stage of the domain in a short period of time. However, it was very risky. If he was not careful, his cultivation would regress and it would be difficult for him to improve. In the worst case, both his body and soul would be destroyed. However, Lu Ming still decided to give it a try. Any peak expert had experienced many difficulties and tribulations. No one had ever heard of anyone who could reach the peak smoothly. Fight. Lu Ming made his decision. Moreover, it was right here. Other than him, no one else should be able to break into this place. It was the best place to cultivate in seclusion and break through. He closed his eyes. After a long time, Lu Ming's heart sank into an empty state and he adjusted his condition to the best. Roar. Then the 9-dragon bloodline emerged. With a loud roar, it rushed into Lu Ming's glabella and appeared in his sea of consciousness. Somewhere in Lu Ming's sea of consciousness, a concept rune was suspended and it was filled with a chaotic radiance. It was Lu Ming's chaos concept rune. Suddenly, the 9-dragon bloodline emerged near the chaos intent rune. Roar. Suddenly, the bloodline of the 9 dragons roared and pounced toward the chaos intent rune. A dragon claw grabbed the intent rune. Boom. The intent runes let out a loud rumble. Lu Ming felt as if the entire world had been turned upside down, and a tearing pain came from his mind. He only recovered after a long time. Again? Lu Ming shouted angrily. The 9 dragons continued to claw at the chaos concept runes. Yes, this was Lu Ming's method. He used a brutal method to blast open the chaos runes and then used a brutal method to merge them into the spiritual god. Such a method was absolutely crazy. If others were to find out about it, they would be scared to death. But without a doubt, it was the most effective and time-saving method. Boom, boom, boom. In his sea of consciousness, the 9 dragons were constantly attacking the chaos runes. In the beginning, the 9 dragons only used 1 dragon claw. Slowly, the number of dragon claws increased and they used 2, then 3. 10 days later, the 9 dragon claws of the 9 dragons attacked the chaos runes together. The runes shook violently. Gotcha. At some point, the chaos intent rune made a cracking sound and a crack appeared on it. At this moment, Lu Ming's body trembled violently and he spat out a large mouthful of blood. However, there was no panic in Lu Ming's eyes. Instead, there was joy. Continue. The 9 dragons continued to bombard the runes. As time passed, more and more cracks appeared on the runes. Another 10 days passed. Suddenly, bang. The chaos concept rune exploded, and blood spurted out of Lu Ming's mouth. A crack even appeared between his eyebrows and blood flowed out. But Lu Ming could not care about that. Melt. Go. Lu Ming roared. The spiritual god in his dantian emitted a strong suction force that attracted the chaos concept rune fragment to the spiritual god. Hoo-hoo. All of the chaos intent fragments flew into the spiritual god. At this moment, the spiritual god swelled up and emitted thousands of rays of light, almost exploding. This step was the most dangerous. If he was not careful, his spiritual spirit would explode, his physical body would collapse, and his soul would be destroyed. Suppress. With a thought, the prison-suppressing steel's bloodline appeared in his dantian. It floated above the spiritual god and suppressed him. At the same time, the third bloodline appeared above Lu Ming's head. Waves of energy enveloped Lu Ming. This was the complete plan. Lu Ming had no cultivation experience in the 9 Dragons sect. He combined it with his own conditions and set up a complete plan. He used his 3 bloodlines to complete this step. The spiritual god that was on the verge of collapse was finally suppressed and was fusing with the chaos intent fragment to form a domain. Lu Ming closed his eyes and focused on cultivation. Time passed day by day. An endless distance away from the divine wilderness continent, in a hidden place on the White Feather continent, there was a messy stone forest. In the stone forest there was an old stone platform. Dee stood by the stone platform waiting anxiously. Buzz. All of a sudden the stone platform began to glow. The glow grew brighter and brighter until it formed a vortex on the stone platform. Suddenly, a figure appeared from the black vortex. 1, 2, and in the end, a total of 10 figures appeared and flew out of the vortex. As soon as the 10 figures flew out, the vortex on the stone platform disappeared. As soon as he saw the 10 people, Diyi's face immediately showed respect. The leader of the 10 people was dressed in luxurious clothes. His eyes were long and narrow, and when he opened and closed them, a sharp light flashed. Behind the young man there were 9 people. There were old men and burly men. All of them had powerful auras, giving off an extremely dangerous feeling. Di from the Di family's side branch pays his respects to young master Di Xian. Di quickly bowed to the young man. You are Di. The young man glanced at Di with a faint disdain. I am Di, Di said hurriedly. Di, you are really useless. You can't even take down a divine wilderness continent. Di Xian scolded coldly. Di's face was ugly, but he did not dare to refute. Chapter 1360. 1360 Di's secret. Breaking through to the Supreme Being level. Di, your goal was originally the continent group of the Divine Ruins. According to the task given to you by the family back then, if you could unify the continent group of the Divine Ruins by yourself, you could return to the Di family and become a direct descendant of the Di family. Unfortunately, it seems that you have no hope. Di Xian sneered. Di lowered his head even more and his eyes flashed with raging anger. It was all Lu Ming's fault. It was all because of Lu Ming that he had ruined his plan. The Di family originated from the Yuan continent and was a powerful force there. As for Di, he was a branch disciple of the Di family, so his status was low. However, there was a rule in the Di family. As for those from the branch family, if they wanted to join the direct line, obtain the status of the direct line, and even obtain the cultivation conditions and resources of the direct line, they had to complete a task assigned by the Di family. Di's mission was to unify the continent group of the Divine Ruins with his own power. This mission wasn't considered to be very difficult among the missions of the Di family. However, Di's talent was limited. He had come to the continent group of the Divine Ruins 10,000 years ago. However, at that time his cultivation level had just broken through to the Martial Emperor realm. That was why he chose the Divine Wilderness continent, which was not very strong, to set up the Emperor's Sky Divine Palace and begin his plan. At the same time, he would strengthen his cultivation and cultivate the spirit body of 10,000 meridians. Now his plan was slowly maturing. His cultivation had already reached the peak of the Lever 2 Martial Royal Realm. He had obtained the myriad meridian spirit body by chance and was just one step away from perfection. He was confident that as long as he obtained one more drop of the Nine Dragons' blood essence, he would reach perfection. At that time, he would be able to break through to the Lever 3 Martial Royal Realm with the help of the myriad spiritual veins body. By then, with his combat power, he could easily unify the Divine Wilderness continent. Even if he spent some more time, as long as his cultivation broke through to the 4th level of the Martial Royal Realm, it would not be a problem for him to unify the Divine Ruins continent. At that time, he would be able to return to the Di family and become a direct descendant of the Di family. His status would be greatly improved, and with the support of all kinds of resources, not only would his cultivation base improve by leaps and bounds, but even his bloodline status would also be different. Unfortunately, everything was ruined by Lu Ming. He had not been able to obtain Lu Ming's 9 dragon blood essence, so he had started the war rashly. He wanted to unify the Divine Wilderness continent first and use the entire Divine Wilderness continent's power to help him cultivate the myriad meridian spiritual body. However, in the end, Lu Ming still ruined everything. Even the 10,000 meridian spirit body that he had cultivated for 10,000 years was destroyed in a day. He had no hope. It was all Lu Ming. Di's eyes turned red at the thought of Lu Ming. I also sent Di Hongqing and Di Honglei to help you. Where are they now? Do you know how much it costs to teleport from the Yuan continent to a wild island like the continent group of the Divine Ruins? Di Xian shouted coldly again. In his words, the Divine Ruins continent cluster became a savage island. Di Hongqing. They are dead. Di stuttered. What? Where are the 2 Emperor's spiritual weapons? Di Xian's eyes widened, and his cold killing intent filled the air. Di's heart trembled. Di Xian was the true direct descendant of the Di family. His status was much higher than his. If he was angered, not only him, even his own branch in the Di family would be in danger. Young Master Xian, please calm down. It's all that Lu Ming's fault. If not for him, I would have been able to unify the continent group of the Divine Ruins before long. Di quickly asked for forgiveness. Lu Ming? Di Xian's eyes widened. Yes, Lu Ming. Di immediately told him about the previous battle and Lu Ming. You're saying that his cultivation hasn't reached the Emperor realm? I didn't think that a mere barbarian Emperor's island would have such a prodigy. This person must have some secrets. Take him down and I'll study him. Di Xian's eyes were cold. Let's go. Di, you lead the way. We'll go to the Divine Wilderness continent and meet that Lu Ming. Di Xian ordered. Yes. Di nodded repeatedly and led the way. His face was ferocious. Lu Ming was still cultivating in the 9 dragon ruins. As the days passed, the spirit god in Lu Ming's dantian gradually calmed down. There was a faint glow as if it was nurturing something. On a certain day, the spiritual god suddenly trembled and a chaotic light flashed. It's done. Lu Ming's eyes were filled with ecstasy. At the same time, Lu Ming put away the prison-suppressing steel and the 3rd bloodline. After such a long time, Lu Ming felt that the embryonic form of the chaos domain had finally been condensed successfully. He waved his hand and piles of raw gemstones appeared around Lu Ming. The bloodline of the 9 dragons appeared. It opened its mouth, and piles of raw gemstones were devoured by the bloodline of the 9 dragons and began to refine. The energy of the origin stone was constantly transformed into true essence and integrated into the spiritual god. The chaotic light in the spiritual god became more and more obvious. After a few more days, Lu Ming had devoured 300 million raw gemstones. The aura on his body was getting stronger and stronger, and his essential core was getting more and more abundant. At a certain moment, buzz. A circle of light spread out from the spiritual god and grew larger and larger. It covered a radius of 100 meters from Lu Ming's body. Domain, the embryonic form of the domain had finally taken shape. This was the embryonic form of the chaos domain. Right now it was only an embryonic form. There was still a long way to go before it could form a real domain. In the future, Lu Ming would need to continuously comprehend and nurture it. Slowly, the embryonic form of the domain would become bigger and more mature. In the future, when he broke through to the Emperor realm, it would naturally become a complete domain. With a single thought, the embryonic form of the domain shrank and covered the surface of Lu Ming's body. Boom. Lu Ming casually threw a punch and the space collapsed, revealing a dark space cave. What a powerful force. Lu Ming felt that the power of the embryonic chaos domain was much stronger than the pure chaos concept. Is this the power of an autarch? Lu Ming could feel the majestic energy in his body and a confident smile appeared on his face. After condensing the embryonic form of the domain, Lu Ming had naturally stepped into the supreme level. His current strength was at least several times stronger than before. He was confident that he could easily kill a peak level 2 martial royal realm expert with a king's spiritual weapon, such as Di Hongqing, without the help of his second body. There's less than a month before the alliance establishment ceremony. It's time to go back. At the thought of this, Lu Ming immediately returned. There were no obstacles on the way back. Lu Ming left the 9 Dragons ruins easily. He tore open the space and soon returned to Northern Plains. At that moment, the Imperial Dragon City was completed. The first thing Lu Ming did when he returned to the Northern Plains was to give the order to start moving to the Imperial Dragon City. Dragon Emperor City was very magnificent and vast. Many people could live there. Additionally, the cultivation conditions in Dragon Emperor City were very good. Of course, many people wanted to move there. Regarding this, Lu Ming had already discussed with the various emperors and decided on the candidates to move to the Imperial Dragon City. Chapter 1361. 1361. The Alliance Master arrived and De came to kill. The great relocation had begun. The Lu family that Lu Ming was from, as well as Hua Qi and the others, had all moved to the Imperial Dragon City. Furthermore, they were given the most central piece of land and the best cultivation environment. Dragon Emperor City started to be boisterous. In just half a month, millions of people had been transferred into the Imperial Dragon City through the inter-territory teleportation formation. However, as for the huge territory of Dragon Emperor City, millions of people were just a small part of it. More and more people would move in gradually. After moving to the Imperial Dragon City, many people started to be busy preparing for the Alliance establishment ceremony. All the powerful cultivators in the Divine Wilderness continent began to gather at the Imperial Dragon City. On this day, De and the others also stepped into the Divine Wilderness continent. As soon as they entered, they heard that the Imperial Dragon City was going to hold an alliance establishing ceremony in a few days. That's good. I'll kill Lu Ming at the so-called alliance establishment ceremony. Di Xian sneered. Young Master Di Xian, that Lu Ming can control the Divine Nine Dragon Cauldron. He's very powerful. We have to be careful. Di said. The Divine Nine Dragon Cauldron controlled by Lu Ming was so powerful and shocking that even a Level 3 Martial Royal Realm expert would have to avoid it. Well, let's go to 9 Dragons and seal the Divine Nine Dragon Cauldron so that Lu Ming can't use it. Di Xian said. Everyone tore open the space and headed toward 9 Dragons. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. The alliance establishment ceremony officially began. At the Imperial Dragon City, at the end of the Divine Dragon Passage, the square paved with white jade was full of experts. Other than Western Desert, all the emperors had arrived. There were hundreds of supreme martial artists, and tens of thousands of sect masters and sect leaders of various forces. They sat down on the seats on both sides of the square. These people were all at the pinnacle of the Divine Wilderness continent. They were all important figures who stood at the very top. Today they were all gathered here. Outside the square, there was an even more spacious place filled with banquet tables. There were at least 1 million people gathered here. Not only that, across the Divine Wilderness mainland, all the factions of varying sizes were celebrating. Today the world was celebrating. The Vice Alliance Master has arrived. A voice came from the sky and spread throughout the entire Imperial Dragon City. Xiao Wan and the old general, one on the left and one on the right, soared into the air and landed on either side of the square. Subordinate greets the two Vice Alliance Masters. Everyone present stood up and saluted the two Vice Alliance Masters. Rise. Please rise. Xiao Wan and the old general both raised their hands. After that, Xiao Wan and the old general fixated onto the deep place of Dragon Emperor City. The Alliance Master has arrived. The voice from before rang out again. Bus, bus, bush. All the onlookers were looking at the depth of Dragon Emperor City. In the depths of the Imperial Dragon City, a few figures were approaching. Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, Lu Ming's parents Lu Yuntian and Li Ping. Today Lu Ming had changed his clothes. He was wearing a long purple gold robe with a majestic and lifelike 9-clawed true dragon embroidered on it. Her long hair was tied up high, and she was wearing a purple gold crown, golden dragon boots, and a golden jade belt around her waist. An invisible, powerful pressure was being emitted. The four of them landed at the top of the square. We pay our respects to the Alliance Master. At the scene inside and outside the square, millions of experts bowed to Lu Ming. The sound waves gathered and the clouds in the sky were shaken away. No need for formalities, please sit. Lu Ming waved his hand and his voice could be heard from afar. Thank you, Alliance Master. Millions of people began to take their seats. Today, we're here to celebrate the establishment of the Dragon Alliance, and then we'll split the territories. Lu Ming spoke. He did not say many words, but many people's hearts were beating faster. The Dragon Alliance had unified the world, including Northern Plains, Eastern Barren, Southern Nether, Central Continent, and the other vast territories. How to infect them and who to send to guard them were the questions everyone was concerned about. There were huge benefits to be gained from this. Let's start. Lu Ming announced. The first step was for many factions, big and small, to step forward and make a blood oath to form the Dragon Alliance and rule the Divine Wilderness. Haha, it seems that I came at the right time today. At this moment, a burst of laughter came from the distance. A golden light flashed and a figure appeared in the sky. That is... It's DE. Many people shouted and some people even showed fear on their faces. Back then, Martial Emperor DE had occupied almost half of the Divine Wilderness continent. He was too powerful. Many forces, big and small, had been ruled by DE. Now that DE had appeared, those people naturally panicked. DE, you still dare to come here? That's great. Today, I'll use your blood as a sacrifice to the flag. Xiao Wan bellowed, a burst of demonic chi soaring into the sky. Lu Ming did not say anything. A look of doubt flashed in his eyes. He could clearly see DE's current realm. He was only at the peak of the Level 1 Martial Royal realm. In the last battle, DE had injured his origin and his cultivation had dropped by 1 level. With such a cultivation, any one of them could easily kill DE, let alone Lu Ming, Xiao Wan the old general or Tu Qian. Why did DE still dare to come here? DE, let the others come out together. Lu Ming said, looking behind DE. Ha, let this young master show himself, and that will be the time of your death. A burst of laughter was heard as the space cracked open. 10 figures appeared in the sky, looking down at the Imperial Dragon City. Who are these people? I've never seen him before. Many people were discussing. You are Lu Ming? Di Xian's gaze turned to Lu Ming. Not bad. Lu Ming said. Good, very good. I heard that you killed 2 experts of my Di family, Di Hongqing and Di Honglei, and even took away their emperor weapons. Now, come over and hand over the emperor weapons. Kneel down and beg me to spare your life. Perhaps I can consider sparing your life. Di Xian put his hands behind his back and looked down at Lu Ming with a haughty look. Impudent! How dare you disrespect the Alliance Master? You should be killed. Let's go. A loud shout came from the square as a tall figure soared into the sky. A vast aura filled the entire place. He was an emperor. He used to be the emperor of a dominant force in the central continent. His name was Martial Emperor Kongtian, and he had surrendered to Lu Ming. Therefore, he had the lowest status among the many emperors in the Dragon Alliance. He had been looking for an opportunity to show off in front of Lu Ming and win his trust. Now that he had such a good opportunity, he had to seize it. Boom. Martial Emperor Kongtian's palm struck towards Di Xian. How dare you disrespect young Master Di Xian Dai? A middle-aged man walked out from behind Di Xian. He held a sword with both hands and slashed. A terrifying sword light instantly appeared above Martial Emperor Kongtian's head. It broke through his attack and defense and slashed down. Martial Emperor Kongtian screamed as he was cut in half. Even his spiritual god exploded and was destroyed. Chapter 1362. 1362 Chapter 1362, so many experts. He had killed an emperor with a single strike. Most of the people present widened their eyes in shock. Peak of the second-level martial royal realm. This man is at the peak of the second-level martial royal realm. Let's go, a sovereign said solemnly. The middle-aged man behind Di Xian was a peak level 2 martial royal realm expert. Boom, boom, boom. Xiao Wan, the old general, and the others released their auras. All the emperors of the Dragon Alliance gathered their auras and pressed down on Di Xian and the others. Cold killing intent burst out of their bodies. How dare you kill people in Dragon Emperor City? All of you will be killed today. The old general's voice was cold. No matter who you are, you will pay the price today. Xiao Wan said. A terrifying blade light flickered on his body. Stay? The price? Haha, how laughable, ignorant, I'd like to see how you can make me stay today. Di Xian laughed and waved his hand. Boom, boom, boom. Behind Di Xian, auras burst out from the remaining people. Each wisp of qi was like a wisp of smoke. Each wisp of qi was boundless and formed a powerful pressure, which pressed on the Imperial Dragon City and the hearts of the people. The pupils of Xiao Wan, the old general, and the others rapidly enlarged, revealing shock and disbelief. The aura of these people was too strong. Including the middle-aged man who had attacked earlier, there were a total of 6 people. All of them were at the peak of the second-level martial royal realm. The other 2 had even more terrifying auras. They were much stronger than the peak level 2 martial royal realm. Third-level martial emperor realm. It was the aura of a level 3 martial emperor. 6 of them were at the peak of the second-level martial royal realm, and 2 of them were at the third level. There was also a Silavira-haired old man who stood closely behind Di Xian. He did not give off any aura, but the feeling he gave off was even more dangerous. In Dragon Emperor City, everyone's heart sank. What kind of tremendous power was this? Now, in the Divine Wilderness continent, the strongest was only at the peak of the second-level martial royal realm. Furthermore, there were only a few people who were at the peak of the realm. Not a single one of them was at the third-level martial emperor realm. But now there were 6 peak level 2 martial royal realm experts and 2 level 3 martial royal realm experts behind Di Xian. How could they fight? Haha, Lu Ming, aren't you very arrogant? Today the experts of my Di family have arrived, and you will all die. Di laughed. His eyes were full of ferocity and his voice was full of hatred. Today he wanted Lu Ming to suffer a fate worse than death. Di Yi's voice made many people tremble. Could it be that the Dragon Alliance was going to be destroyed before it was officially established? Lu Ming, how is it? Hurry up and hand over the Emperor's spiritual weapon and come here to admit your guilt. Maybe you can keep your dog life. Di Xian sneered and continued to look down at Lu Ming, as if he was certain that he would win. Emperor spiritual weapons were the spiritual weapons that only peak Emperor experts could unleash their strongest power. Even to Di Xian they were precious. Those 2 Emperor spiritual weapons were one of the few he had. Out of the 9 experts he had brought, only 1 or 2 of them had an Emperor spiritual weapon. Ming, Lu Yuntian and Li Ping looked at Lu Ming with worry. Father, mother, don't worry. It'll be fine. Lu Ming smiled at Lu Yuntian and Li Ping. His smile was filled with confidence. For some reason, Lu Yuntian and Li Ping felt at ease when they saw Lu Ming's smile. Then Lu Ming ignored Di Xian and looked at Di. Di, you escaped last time. You should have hidden well. That way you might have been able to survive. But you came here to die. You brought this on yourself. Lu Ming spoke slowly, causing many people to be stunned. In such a situation, Lu Ming was still thinking about killing Di. He couldn't even protect himself. Only the eyes of a few people such as Xiao Wan, Xia Jiuyang, and Yan Kuangtu lit up. They knew Lu Ming very well. Lu Ming would not do anything without a reason. Di himself was also stunned. Lu Ming still wanted to kill him under such circumstances? Where did Lu Ming's confidence come from? Di Xian's face darkened. Lu Ming actually dared to ignore him. Bang! Bang! Di Xian stepped forward step by step, his body releasing a powerful aura. Supreme Martial Artist. Di Xian's cultivation base was at the Supreme Being realm. This shocked many people in Dragon Emperor City. Because Di Xian didn't look very old. He was definitely not more than 30 years old. He might even only be in his early 20s. To reach the supreme level in his early 20s was too shocking. This had never happened before in the history of the Divine Wilderness continent. Lu Ming, I've heard that you're very powerful. I'd like to experience it today. Di Xian spoke, his aura locked onto Lu Ming. You want to challenge me? The corners of Lu Ming's lips curled up slightly. Behind Di Xian, Di Yi's eyes flickered, but he did not speak. He knew that some of the supreme talents in the Emperor family had shocking combat strength and were extremely terrifying. They were far from what some of the so-called supreme talents in the continent of the Divine Ruins could compare to. Although Lu Ming was strong, he might be able to fight Di Xian. Even if he could not fight Di Xian, Lu Ming would offend Di Xian even more and it would be beneficial to him. Not bad, do you dare to accept the challenge? Di Xian said. Since you're looking for a beating, of course I'll fulfill your wish. Lu Ming smiled and stepped forward, facing Di Xian from a distance. Lu Ming, I heard that you're a rare genius in the Divine Wilderness continent, but I'll let you know that the so-called geniuses of a desolate island like yours are just a joke. Di Xian sneered. His body started to shine like wisps of sword chi. Buzz. A combat sword appeared in Di Xian's hand. He strode toward Lu Ming and shouted, Kill! Whoosh! A beam of sword chi split the sky and slashed at Lu Ming. Boom! Lu Ming threw a punch and activated the prison-suppressing heavenly technique. The fist force and the sword chi collided. The space was twisted into pieces. Lu Ming's body trembled and he actually took 3 steps back. Di Xian, on the other hand, stood still in the air. Hiss hiss hiss. The Imperial Dragon City was filled with gasps. Lu Ming was forced to retreat by a single sword. In the Battle of the Holy City, everyone still remembered Lu Ming's shocking combat strength. Even a peak second-level martial emperor with an emperor's spiritual weapon was killed by Lu Ming. Now Lu Ming was forced to retreat by a single sword. Moreover, the opponent was a young man who was not even 30 years old. This was shocking. His body? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He was secretly shocked. Although he had not used his full strength and had only revealed his cultivation at the great circle of the spiritual god realm, he had still unleashed 9 streams of dragon power and executed the prison-suppressing heaven technique. Even an ordinary emperor would not be a match for him. However, his opponent was only a supreme being, and the battle prowess he had unleashed was astonishing. What surprised Lu Ming the most was the body of the other party. It was a spirit body. That's right, the other party was only a supreme martial artist, but he had a spiritual body. This was inconceivable. Lu Ming could sense very clearly that the other party's spirit body was not a pure spirit body like his. It was a real spirit body with special attributes. Chapter 1363. 1363 Chapter 1363 Innate Spirit Body. But didn't a true spirit body have to step into the Emperor realm before it could be condensed? That's a spirit body? That's right, it's really a spirit body, a type of sword spirit body. How is that possible? How can a supreme martial artist possess a spirit body? The Emperor of the Dragon Alliance was in an uproar. Even existences like Xiao Wan and the old general who had lived for many years were shocked. They could naturally feel the power of Di Xian's spirit body. Innate spirit body, it's an innate spirit body. Haha, these country bumpkins don't know the power of an innate spirit body. An innate spirit body is an innate spirit body. Behind him, Di Yi's eyes were filled with shock, but at the same time, he laughed in his heart. He was born in the Yuan continent, so his vision was naturally different. He knew that some people were blessed by the heavens and were born with a spirit body. This was called an innate spirit body. Such people were innately unrivaled geniuses. Needless to say, their bloodline would definitely be able to awaken to the 9th level of the divine level. At the same time, their bloodline and spirit body would definitely be in perfect harmony. This kind of person, whether it was bloodline martial techniques, comprehension of intent, or other martial techniques, was blessed by the heavens and had an advantage over others. Therefore, his combat strength was also terrifyingly strong. Di Xian was such a person. If you can block one of my moves, come again. Di Xian shouted. On the surface of his body, wisps of sword-like radiance circulated. He slashed his combat sword, and the sword chi was shocking as it slashed toward Lu Ming. Chaos. Lu Ming took a step forward and cast the Chaos Will. At the same time, his third bloodline appeared and he threw another punch. The same prison-suppressing heaven technique, when combined with the Chaos Intent, had its power increase explosively. Boom. This time Lu Ming did not move an inch. On the other hand, Di Xian retreated backward. Damn it, kill? Di Xian flew into a rage after being pushed back. He raised his aura to the maximum and covered his entire body with his territory. He charged at Lu Ming and slashed with his sword. The roars of hundreds of beasts could be heard. Di Xian's martial technique wasn't simple. It seemed to push the power of the domain to its limit. Domain martial technique. A thought flashed across Lu Ming's mind. A domain martial skill was the same as a concept martial skill. Martial techniques of creation could exert the power of creation to the extreme, while martial techniques of domain could exert the power of domain to the extreme. Di Xian's domain martial skill was even more powerful, and his sword light seemed to be able to destroy everything. Lu Ming infused the chaos concept into his body and engaged in an intense battle with his opponent. In the blink of an eye, they had exchanged dozens of moves. To be honest, Di Xian was very powerful. He was the strongest member of the younger generation that Lu Ming had met so far. His combat strength was comparable to Lu Ming's combat strength before he broke through to the Supreme Being realm. It was equivalent to the peak of the second-level martial royal realm. He was only a supreme martial artist, but his battle prowess was already so shocking that it was beyond imagination. In a battle of the same level, he was even stronger than Long Chen. One must know that the bloodline awakened by Long Chen was one of the top 10 war beasts, the Archean dragonesque elephant. However, now that Lu Ming had broken through to the Supreme Being realm, he naturally did not take him seriously. Damn it! How could there be such a powerful person on a mere savage island? The more they fought, the more shocked Di Xian was. This person must have a secret. If I can obtain his secret, I will definitely become stronger. I might even be able to compete with those monstrous geniuses in the clan. Thinking of this, Di Xian's heart started to burn. Buzz. His glabella glowed and a golden combat sword flew out, slashing at Lu Ming. Clang. Lu Ming's punch landed on the combat sword and he could not help but retreat. An Emperor's spiritual weapon. Lu Ming's eyes flickered, but he was not surprised. The other party was so talented and had an extraordinary background. It was normal for him to have an Emperor's spiritual weapon. Die. Di Xian shouted and charged at Lu Ming. Is this all you've got? Then let's end this. Chaos concept. Lu Ming shouted. The chaos concept that lingered around his body suddenly changed. At first it shrank rapidly and then bloomed. What bloomed out was no longer intent, but a domain, the embryonic form of the chaos domain. At the same time, the aura on Lu Ming's body rose rapidly. Supreme Martial Artist. The Alliance Master has broken through to the Supreme Martial Artist realm. Xiao Wan and the others were overjoyed. Boom. Lu Ming's fist was wrapped in the early stage of the chaos realm. He punched Di Xian's Emperor's spiritual weapon sword. Clang. The sword shook violently. Di Xian's expression changed. His body shook and he was sent flying like a cannonball. Blood spurted out of his mouth. When Lu Ming revealed his true abilities, he was crushed and was severely injured by a single punch. Kill? Lu Ming moved and caught up with Di Xian. He threw a punch at Di Xian's heart. This punch was enough to penetrate Di Xian's heart. However, just as Lu Ming's punch was about to hit Di Xian's heart, Di Xian's body suddenly emitted a golden light and a golden armor appeared. Thump. Lu Ming's fist landed on the armor. The armor shook violently, but it was not broken. It blocked most of Lu Ming's fist force. However, Lu Ming's punch was too powerful. Although the armor had blocked most of the force, a small part of the force from the punch still hit Di Xian's body. Di Xian screamed in pain. His chest caved in and blood spurted out of his mouth. It's a defensive Emperor's spiritual weapon. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. This Emperor Xian was really rich. It even had a defensive Emperor's spiritual weapon. The ones that Lu Ming had encountered in the past were all offensive Emperor's spiritual weapons. In comparison, defensive Emperor's spiritual weapons were more precious than offensive ones. It was a defensive Emperor's spiritual weapon that could save one's life at critical moments. Just like just now, if Dician did not have this armor, he would have been killed by Lu Ming with one punch. How dare you hurt the young master? Kill him. Dician was severely injured. The subordinates he had brought with him all roared in anger and launched fierce attacks at Lu Ming. 6 peak second-level martial emperors and 2 third-level martial emperors attacked at the same time. The power was shocking. Not good. The expressions of Xie Wan, Xia Zhuyang, and the others changed drastically. Kill? A combat sword appeared in Lu Ming's hand. It was the Dragon Vein Sword, the Emperor's spiritual weapon that he had snatched from the Flood Dragon Sovereign when he was fighting for the pure spirit body cultivation technique in the ancient underwater city. Now that Lu Ming had broken through to the Martial Emperor realm and mastered the embryonic form of his territory, he could already activate the power of an Emperor's spiritual weapon. Moreover, Lu Ming's early stage domain was the early stage of the Chaos Domain. The Chaos Domain could transform into other domains at will. In other words, no matter what type of King spiritual weapon it was, except for a few types such as spacetime, Lu Ming could use it. Whoosh! The combat sword slashed across, and a peak lever 2 martial royal realm expert was cut in half at the waist, dying on the spot. Clang! Then he moved his sword horizontally and exchanged a blow with a lever 3 martial royal realm expert, forcing him to retreat. Let's attack. Buzz. Xie Wan controlled an Emperor's spiritual weapon and a demonic blade to attack the 2 peak lever 2 martial royal realm martial artists. At the same time, the old general and Tu Qian also made their moves. Both of them controlled their king spiritual weapons and enveloped the remaining 2 peak lever 2 martial royal realm martial artists. None of the 6 peak second level martial royal realm experts under Dician had an Emperor's spiritual weapon, so Xie Wan and the other 2 were enough to deal with them. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.